Let's check that out. New channel. What up, team? What up, friends? Let's see here. Go check it out. Yes. All right, cool. We're live. We did it. What up, everybody? We'll wait for people to trickle in here, as they do. Yo, what up, Connor? What up, friend? Let me see here. All right, cool. I got my chat up. I got this up. We're ready to go. We are doing good, man. I always love that you're here right on time, right at the beginning. That's my guy. We doing good. I'm excited for people to show up because I miss doing this. Yes, what up? Nye Julian? Not my projects. Get out of here. And yeah, this should be good. Hopefully it's not too wobbly on my legs. What's good, Spirac? Whoa, it's a man. It's familiar faces. I like this. I like this. What is up, everyone? How's everybody doing? Happy to have you back, Matt Benton. Thank you for coming, my friend. Dang. A 2-month subscriber. I can't say your name. Thank you so much. It's very nice of you. Let's go, team. I've been doing all right. I feel like I'm in a pretty fortunate spot in my life where I can pay my rent and don't have much work right now, but that's the least of, I feel like people have a lot worse problems. So I'm doing what I can to do my part and helping out in my area and hope everybody's getting through best they possibly can. And yeah, oops, I just closed everything. All right, we're going to get Steve and Danilo in here. Let's get Steve on first. Steve, good old Steve. Everybody throw a little egghead Steve in there if you want. Let's welcome him. Welcome.
What's up, man?
What up? All right, let's get the gallery view going. There we go. We're back. It's like we never left. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Your audio is...
How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm happy.
I was in the middle of typing in the chat.
Oh, I'm trying to get a Steve face in here. Let's go. Let's see. We'll get Danilo in here soon, but yeah, dude. I miss talking to you and talking to people. Mostly. Yeah. This is like my social. I don't know. We're all in quarantine, so this is like my social time. Which is, it was okay to give it up for a little bit, but I'm happy we're back. And yes, Jer Music, how you doing? Good. What have you been up to, Steve?
Oh, nothing. Just lots of streaming stuff, lots of podcasting stuff with different people, and just trying to stay busy.
And now you're here.
Yeah. I've missed this for 2 weeks, man.
Yeah, me too. And now we got Danilo, too.
Here he comes.
I threw him in. He's here.
The man, the myth.
Welcome. Always connecting with his audio. That's good. We got video and audio. It's the double threat. Yes. Welcome. You there?
What's up, guys?
Welcome.
Not much. How are you, Danilo?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're here. We're live. Steve, you lose for most white background.
Yeah.
Danilo wins.
The busy background.
Yeah, most busy. That's actually a pull-down screen.
Yeah, this is all green screen.
Yeah, dude.
If when I turn my head, you'll see my hair reappear.
Yeah. What's this alert for? I just missed it. Something happened. I got like my thing. Yeah, what's up? Connor, Captain Lasagna in chat. That's our mod. He's a badass. He's very...
Got it. I'm looking at the chat right now, seeing who's in here.
Everybody say hi, Danilo. He's hanging out. And yeah.
I love that name, Captain Lasagna.
Dude, right? He's good vibes all around. He reminds me of Parker a little bit. They're very similar, like just good energy. Like you just know they're gonna go far. And
I love that. Okay.
Cornish gamer, avid participant in our Discord community and good person.
Okay.
Captain said you were great, or Connor said you were great on the Black with No Cream podcast.
Thank you. I'm looking at that now. Yeah, that was a fun one to do.
When'd you do that one?
That was last year in August.
I know it's like a pretty
I
cool
think that was
podcast, right?
Yeah. The guy who runs it, Ben Haggerty, he's awesome. Like great interviewer, super engaging, and I like that he's built this community about learning. Like there isn't anyone that comes in with the attitude that I know everything. Like everything, all the
That's
guests,
great.
it's all about like, this is what I can teach, but this is what I can learn from it as well. So it's really
That's
awesome.
great. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
I can probably learn a lot for myself from him. Like I definitely say I'm guilty of not intaking as much content as well, maybe I am intaking as much as I would like. I don't intake very much. I don't know about you, but I get overwhelmed pretty quickly. There's so much out there, is there not? I don't know.
Yeah. And there's a lot right now. There's an amazing amount of great content out there.
Yeah. Everybody's stuck at home.
Yeah, but it's neat because people are going back in their catalog. They're re-editing. They're doing things like editing Danilo's shot, and people are always willing to learn, which is really really cool.
I mean, I did it myself with my catalogs. I went back and re-edited so much old stuff just to kind of keep that muscle memory still there, just in case.
Yeah, you're trying to keep everything. It's like you just don't want to stop moving. You want to keep it fresh. Yeah, I know that.
Oh yeah.
Do you ever just go back to your photos and you look like? I had to edit a shoot yesterday, and I started editing it like a few months ago, but the client finally got me their selects, and I went back and I was like, what was I thinking? Why did I do this? There's been a few.
Yeah, there's a few. I actually had a conversation about this yesterday in regards to some photos I took in 2016 of J Balvin. Yeah. And I was like, I never really shared those photos. I was working for this venue when I took those photos. And I went back to try to re-edit, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave them the way they are. It was in that moment, and in that time period, they look good enough, and I'm just gonna start sharing something. Yeah. So I'm gonna share like those kind of like older edits, and maybe like do like a newer edit or something like that. Yeah.
No, I totally get that vibe when I like go to like an old image, and I'm like, there's no way I can put this in my portfolio. It's just not. Yeah. It's just not. So I just like keep it as what it was. Like that.
That's my ongoing forever project is my website portfolio. I feel like I change it every 3 days and I'm never happy with it.
Yes.
That's better than never changing it at all.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Steve is correct on that. Well, cool. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just get started here. For just a quick intro for those of you who don't know, although I'm sure most of you are familiar, as we do start this off by editing his photograph. But Danilo works for musicians, travels with them. We're going to learn a little bit more about how he got into that, but currently works for Chainsmokers and Florida Georgia Line. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
So 2 different artists, 2 different genres. Both, okay, I actually don't know Florida Georgia Line very well, but how many members are there in that band? 2, right?
2, yeah.
Okay, so it's the same setup.
The main group. Yeah, it's almost the same setup, yeah. Because it's like the 2 main guys and the band.
And then they have people that travel with them and play with them live.
Yeah.
And those people.
I know somebody else that used to shoot for Florida Georgia Line. Anthony D'Angio.
Oh, never met Anthony.
Used to shoot for them, yeah.
Okay.
He's not around anymore. Danilo's here.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no.
I'm just kidding. Thank you, Cornish Gamer. Appreciate the support. Well, cool. Well, yeah. I actually met, I didn't tell Steve this, but I met Danilo. That's, I think is why he's here. He was like, I met you when Tom Falcone was in town at that coffee wall. What do you guys call it?
Just like coffee talk, just a bunch of friends.
They hang out on this wall in LA at an undisclosed location and have coffee every day and hang out with these squirrels and feed them squirrel dessert, like
we're the squirrel whisperers of Melrose Place.
Yeah, and I met up with them there, and it was a bunch of touring people, and it was chill, and that's how we met.
Yeah, like our mutual friend Aubrey, he's the one who kind of got us started with like, hey, you guys want to get coffee? Let's go here, and it just became a thing, and it's all like tour managers, production people, content creators, like in the industry in LA. Yeah, and we kind of just started gravitating to doing that like once a day at least.
Dude, yeah, I was like, you guys could come here once a week, Steve? And they're like, no, we do this every day at 4. I was
every day?
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
And Thomas is in the chat, by the way.
Oh, what up, Falcon?
Hey, Thomas.
Yeah, we got Thomas. He says he thinks about that squirrel every day. I love squirrels. I have a squirrel tattoo. Wisconsin has a lot of squirrels. And
you have a squirrel tattoo? Wow.
And well, in California, it's mostly ground squirrels. But in Wisconsin, it's all tree squirrels. I don't know. I don't know the science name of them other than I'm assuming some live in the ground. Some live
I just like the hand gesture with it.
I'm
Tree
learning.
squirrels.
Ground.
Like everybody understood that too.
Yeah. Hey. Everybody say hi, Thomas. But yeah, so that's how we met. And then I think we started talking about like teaching and workshops. I think you were working on something of your own at the time, and it was cool. And then he actually convinced me to start using Instagram again. So I was like, start following people. So I was like,
can I say that I want to take a little bit of credit that you started following people, because I kind of was like, hey, like, can I get that follow since I just followed you?
You can take all of the credit. That is literally what happened.
It's like it happened that day, and I just saw you like hitting follow all these people. I'm like, man, it's like Christmas for everybody right now.
No, yeah. It was pretty funny though. I was like, because I was just tired of like meeting people and then feeling like an asshole when they were like, hey, will you follow me? I was like, I just don't do that, and it was like immediately off on the wrong step because I don't intake content. Like I just don't look at much stuff. It's too my brain just goes crazy, which I'm sure you can relate to. But anyway,
that's actually interesting to me.
What?
Yeah. I mean, because to me, the inspiration of all that content, I love.
Yeah. Is it weird to say? Like, I don't know about you guys, but like the things that inspire me for photographs aren't photographs. It's life. Like I would say living life and things that I learn inspire me. I don't know about you.
I like that everyone has their like own creative sort of process of how they take it in and how they experience, and then whatever comes out of it. For me, is like I used to pay attention to a lot of creators all the time, like whether it was from like almost every genre, anyone possible, and then I slowly changed that into, before every tour, focusing on like going to like old vintage rock and roll photos.
Okay.
Oh.
And that's where like I've, at least in 2019, like early 2019 is when I started doing this. And that's where I've kind of gotten my inspiration now, where I'm like, there's so many iconic photos that a lot of people don't realize they exist. I mean, yes, a lot of people do, but there's so many that, just kind of don't get discovered for whatever reasons being, Instagram world kind of just, I don't know, doesn't show it.
I gotta ask though, because you're talking classic rock photos. Are there any certain artists?
Yeah.
Meaning in the photos that you're going to?
Like the subject, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of Elton John. Just because.
OG.
It doesn't seem like his persona doesn't, or at least like I guess the setup doesn't scream rock and roll. But then I see a photograph of him with a ridiculous piano. The outfit is crazy. All the accoutrements that he has on, and then you see a sold out Wembley Stadium, and I'm like, that is rock and roll. Like the photo.
You know why? He was the set decoration.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was the props.
Oh, you're just saying him in general? That's what made.
Yeah, him in general. What he wore, the way his mannerisms, kind of like Freddie Mercury in a way. But Elton John was all of those stage props, all him.
Yes. Wow. I see.
He was a rock star.
That.
Let's be real. He was a rock star. He could do anything. Like that dude is just.
Yeah. So his photos are ones that I go and see a lot of. Like try to discover new ones that I maybe haven't seen before. I'll say this. I don't know if it's like a plug or anything, but the Morrison Hotel Gallery.
Oh yeah.
I think everyone should go take a gander, good look at what so many amazing creators like created in this era that almost seems just so timeless that I look at photos and in my head I'm like, I want to recreate that, but now like I think of like there's so many like iconic photos that in my head like that's where I'm like getting inspiration to now.
Hell yeah.
Adam's in there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Hey, I got to do it because that's a huge accomplishment.
I am very proud of that. They're good people.
You should be. And some of those classic photos that they'll have there, the old Woodstock photos or Monterey Pop Festival with Hendrix or who am I thinking of? Can't think of her name. Janis Joplin. Some of those old photos are iconic for a reason. And you study those photos, it's an amazing lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, agreed. Yeah, that's a cool way to get inspiration. I like that. I mean, it's interesting to hear. What prompted you to start looking at rock photos? Like, why not anything else? Why
I'll give credit to the Chainsmokers manager. In late 2018, we're doing a Jingle Ball tour show. I don't remember where it was, and you know, we were just going through normal conversation, and he mentioned if I've ever actually. I said to him, I was like, you know, he asked me how the tour was going, and I said, you know, usual crazy, you know, a lot of big show, you know, short period of time.
Yeah.
I said, I'm trying to create something meaningful that would, you know, last or, you know, test of time within, because, you know, for most people that don't know, Jingle Ball, like whenever you're touring, doing those tours for Jingle Ball, it's a 15-minute set, sometimes even like a 10-minute set.
It's like a variety show almost, right? Like everybody plays their hits and then they're off.
Exactly. It's just the hits, you know, I think maximum maybe 4 songs, and then that's done. So I was trying to come up ways of like, how can I show this 3 song or 4 songs and make something meaningful out of it? And then he was like, well, have you ever looked at this gallery? And I hadn't heard about it before. And I was like, no, I haven't. Then he sent me the link. And then like right before, like I kind of took upon like really diving into that gallery, he said to me, he was like, think that way, like think about what these men and women created in that era and how you see those images now, and you think of them as iconic. Think about creating that stuff for the Chainsmokers in this period, and then hopefully they stand a test of time, and in 20-30 years time people will go back and say, wow, look at this time in, you know, 2019, 2020, like photos that were created then. No, so that's where it kind of got started for me. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. And how do you, like, I don't know about you, but maybe like at Jingle Ball specifically, I know on like a regular day of tour, it's like, okay, my job is to more or less capture the full day. And let's say you turn in, I don't know how many you turn in, but let's say you turn in 40 photos a day. Like, they're not obviously all going to be Morrison Hotel Gallery, but how do you know when you've captured an image that's, you're like, okay, this is for my portfolio, this is for the memory, this isn't just for the Instagram story? Like, what sticks out to you when you see that image?
Yeah, what do you see as your iconic photo?
So a lot of it for me now is because Chainsmokers came from that DJ world, and obviously they're transitioning into the band world. You know, they're a pop band, like, you know, there's a drummer, there's guitars, it's the whole live music aspect of it. So what I wanted to like show in my photos was their diversity from their music. You know, these aren't guys that are just standing behind DJ decks. I wanted them to look like rock stars. They may be DJs, but to me, it's like, this is a band now. I need to think in those terms that I want people to see them for more than what they're used to seeing them. So to me, it was like a prideful thing to want to give them the best work possible to showcase how they were transitioning into this band, how they were transitioning into this like big pop group that most people, like, again, didn't know that this was happening. You know, they would hear the music, but they hadn't quite seen the show. And I mean, the show is massive, like the amount of production that we have, that we carry.
Yeah, you brought your own fireworks, tour. Right? You bring all the fireworks?
Yeah, you know, like I set it off, like I have like my wireless trigger for my camera. I have one for the fireworks.
Perfect, yeah.
But yeah, like that's where, like, for me was like where I wanted to separate that into like, okay, like these are the iconic images. So for me was, for the show wise, I wanted to showcase Drew, the singer, the lead singer. I wanted to showcase how passionate like he sings and how much he puts into it. So it separates the performance as well as like the, you know, behind the scenes, day-to-day things where most people don't know. He spends every single day, he does a voice lesson, you know. Alex, who is the keyboardist, piano producer, he every single day he's doing a piano lesson. Like, it doesn't fail.
They're trying to get better.
Right. And I wanted to show people that. I wanted them to be able to like see that I was capturing that, want to be able to share it, and for people to see like, hey, like this is happening. Like, you should pay attention of this change. Like, and, you know, obviously show all the, you know, like the production that's happening, like all the work that's being put into the show. So that's, for me, is where the iconic image is that I'm searching for, is how to show, like, put them into, you know, in that world of rock and roll. in a sense. Yeah.
And before I respond, I just want to let you guys know, for who's just joining us, this is Steve. He's the co-host. I'm Adam. We're interviewing Danilo Lewis. He works with artists such as the Chainsmokers and Florida Georgia Line. We're talking about photography, music photography, all that fun stuff today. So thank you for joining us. But
I want to jump back to something Adam said when he said, I don't know how many images you submit. I am curious. How many images do you submit?
Depending on the show, anywhere between 100 to 160 images.
Okay. Out of
an hour.
Out of an hour, yeah.
An hour.
Actually, no, he just goes and takes 100 images and then just gives those.
Yeah. So if I look at an entire day's photos that I've captured, I'm in the 1,200 to 1,500 range.
Okay.
Obviously, a lot of it, the bulk of it comes during the show, just because there's like so many things happening. And I'm in the process of like, I want to capture everything. Like, yes, there are times that I pick and choose my moments, but other times I'm like, you know what, I'll capture as much of an entire show as I can in one full swing of it. And the one of the main reasons why I do that is like, so later on in the tour, like I am not scrambling for shots that I missed.
Right.
So yeah, that's the bulk, but obviously like there's a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of lifestyle stuff, a lot of like portrait work that we do. Cause as you know, everyone knows like that's what sells on Instagram. Everybody wants to see the behind the scenes. Everybody wants to see like what they do on their day to day. So like that's a big,
so you give it to them
of the work. Yeah,
well, it's cool to hear. Like, I don't know how many people know, like, how much of this is, like, a conscious effort, whether it be working on their image of transitioning to a rock band from a DJ group, or whether it be, hey, this is what we need daily, this is what we need monthly, this is what we need after the tour. Like, it's kind of cool to hear, like, hey, this isn't just me going there with a camera and shooting around. There's, like, a method to my madness. That being said, like, how much do you plan, or how much do you just wing it? Or, like, you just go with it and it works out, or...
All right, so I'll give you guys a little inside info because like this is something I normally don't ever talk about. But
is it about showering? All right, never
mind. So as a tour photographer, at least for me, it's always better to go to your artist and talk about this. Ask them what they're looking for. Ask them what they're looking to see in the photos. You know, what, do they have in mind as far as new tours? Because our tours change. Once one tour happens, that's it, it's over. Like the next tour that comes is completely different. We're doing completely different stuff. So like from like Drew and myself, Drew, the lead singer, him and I will sit down before every tour and we'll map out what we're looking to create, things we're looking to capture.
Yeah.
If I could, in 2018, for example, we were looking to capture like that bigger production photo. While in 2019, we were looking for the more, and in 2019, we were looking for the more personal close-ups, like show the energy, but from that much more compressed image, or at least the crop. So like, these are things that, we talk about. I often, obviously, like there are things that I myself want to find and create. So I will always throw them in and be like, hey, especially once the tour gets started, I'm able to see the new show. I'm able to see like how things are moving. I'll come in around like in, a couple of days after the tour has started, and I'll say like, hey, next time you're in this part of the stage, think about this because I'm going to be right there. I think it'll be a great look.
You can work together.
Right. And it may seem set up at times, but I mean, regardless of anything, the show is still happening. Like the odds of him remembering what I said and exactly the position I want him in, it's going to be slim to none. There are times it does work out how I want it to work out.
You're like, at this point, leave the stage, go to the... No, it's just like little tips, right? Like, hey.
Right. And I'm thankful like they understand my ideas and my vision. And, I'd love to, if it's a vision that I create, like that I kind of set up and it comes out and it's exactly it was exactly in my head, I run straight to the bus or backstage to edit that specific photo to say, I'd like to edit and send it in and be like, look,
I did it.
This is exactly what I was saying. And it's like, once that starts working out, like obviously the trust is there where,
just
anytime I say anything else, they're going to be like, that sounds great. Let's go with that, so.
No, that makes sense. Oh, that's cool. That's great insight. I appreciate the detail and like kind of how it's nice to know how people work. Like a lot of the times I like to think it's better to work with somebody than work for them. And I think this is a perfect example of like, this is very much a cohesive collaboration. And that's why you stick around with artists, is because you have that bond and you have that way you work together. It's not just a random person here to shoot photos.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, moving forward, kind of like a little bit of a section that we had planned today. I wanted to talk to you about this because it was pretty unique for you, but a lot of people watching this are, maybe they photograph at their local venue or they don't know what to do, but they want to know how can they get on tour. So today we actually have Parker coming in, and Parker, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on any part of this, Parker was basically an intern, is that the right term? Or shadow? An intern?
No, yeah. He I mean, it was more of a shadow, but we joke once it started, we did joke that he was my intern. So we treated it as an internship.
And he was a photographer, and we'll let you guys just tell the story of how you kind of met and got together. If you want to hop in here, Parker, come on in. But I think it's a really cool story of how you can go from to getting on the road and all that stuff. So let's segue into that, and we got Parker. Let's do some audio check. And what up, dude?
Parker's here.
What up, Parker? How's it going?
It's going. I see that my name didn't save, so I'll go and fix that real quick.
It's okay. It's okay. Man, you're efficient. You can find him on, is that Instagram and Twitter or one or the other?
Yeah.
Okay, as PX.
Yeah, because the handle Parker West, it's not taken by anybody on Instagram, but if you like type in the URL, it's just unavailable, but it won't let me take it. So
somebody got removed from it or something like they.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of like the periods and underscores and numbers, so I had to throw something in there.
This guy likes X's.
It's simple.
That's great. Well, thanks for finding time to do this with us today. I'm really excited to have you. This is like a unique situation that, although it might seem like, I'm sure you were stoked when it happened, but it's not every day we get to like kind of hear how it happened and focus on the fact that there's no right or wrong path. There's just a path. So I guess I don't know if you guys. I'll let you guys take it from here. Let's talk about it for a little bit, like how you guys kind of connected, and then what it was like to be on the road. And yeah, you guys go for it.
I actually go ahead, Parker. Yeah, I got introduced to Danilo through Drew and Alex actually because a couple years ago I kind of like took over their Reddit page. I was just like a kid who was a big fan, didn't have very many like people in my real life to talk to things too in depth about. So I was just always on Reddit, and I took over the Chainsmokers Reddit page because I saw that it was like really inactive and really like unorganized, and it was just kind of spammy. But I saw that like the Chainsmokers like actual Reddit account would comment every now and then. So I was like, well, surely if someone like took this over and like made it all organized and turned it into something like actually really cool and unique, then they would get their attention, right? And that's pretty much exactly what happened. So the first time the first time that they brought me out to a show, I went up, and Danilo was actually the first person I introduced myself to. It was a really awkward going backstage for the first time because security wouldn't let me bring my friends through because they didn't have the appropriate passes.
That's how it works.
I had to get somebody to like come and escort them back. So I was just walking all around. I see all these faces that I've like recognized through different YouTube videos and Instagram posts over the years, and I had no idea what to do. So I just went up and introduced myself to Danilo, and the tour opportunity was way like more low key and easy than the Reddit story because after the guys did Lollapalooza, I was just making my rounds. I always try to make sure I say goodbye to everybody before I leave.
Yeah,
so I was just,
that's a good way to live.
Yeah, that right there is some of the best advice right there.
Yeah. And I went and I said goodbye to Drew, and he's like, when are we going to see you next? And I said, I'll be at like a few shows on your guys' tour that's coming up. He's like, oh, well, let me know if there's a few shows that are close by in a row and you're available. I've got a spare bunk on my bus and you can just come along.
And then what was your reaction? You're like,
I don't
yes,
know
please.
Exactly. I just kind of like stood back. I was like, dude, that's like all I've been shooting for ever since I started taking photos. And then once we actually got it set up, I talked to Danilo about like just shadowing him and just trying to so I wasn't on the tour bus for 3 days just hanging out doing nothing.
So did you already go ahead, Adam?
No, what's up?
I was just gonna say, were you already a photographer?
Yeah, I'd been shooting for a couple years. I think I started taking it seriously at like the beginning of 2018, and yeah, the tour has always been the biggest goal. So even 3 days was, I was stoked. And I was in the middle, like I was still a month away from graduating college. So I took like 2 days. I took 2 days away from classes to do this. And
that's so cool, man.
Yeah, those 3 days are like have been carrying me through the last 6 months.
I got to go back to something I'm dying to know though. You take over the Reddit page, you end up going to the tour and getting backstage. There's something missing in between. So you take over the Reddit page. How does that transpire that they say to you, hey, come on down?
You blackmailed them.
Yeah, so this was actually, it was over 2 years ago. Like it was like the beginning of 2018 that, that it was, I reached out to Alex first because I don't remember how, but I had their email. I don't remember how I got it, but I knew.
He's like, I showed up at their front door, I knocked on the door, and I was like, "Yo, dude, I run the Reddit."
I think that they maybe just like said it on like an old YouTube video, but I just kind of sent an email hoping for a response because like one of their songs got leaked on the Reddit page, and I thought it was kind of like if I'm wanting to be in business with these people, I shouldn't be promoting like the illegal spread of their unreleased music. So I took it down. And I emailed Alex and I was like, yo, just letting you know, someone out there has a hold of your song. But I run the Reddit page. So I took it down. It's all cool. And from then we just kind of created a dialogue. I made sure that
it was blackmail.
Yeah, it was. That was a critical part of that story too, by the way.
Yeah. After
I would get these emails sometimes and it would be like, hey, can you send Parker some photos for the Reddit page? And I'm like, who is this? Why am I sending this Parker kid photos for Reddit? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not sending somebody I don't know, just random photos.
This guy's Spider-Man. He's got the same name.
Well, Danilo, I'm pretty sure you actually, I think we talked about it the first time we met.
Yeah.
Then we got that. And I think it's one of my photos on there now. I definitely need to get one of yours over there instead because Reddit's headers are so weird. It's like really long and really small. So like not a lot of like, there's not
you can't see much.
There's not a lot of concert photos that fit there.
All right, we're gonna have a Reddit mod class later, but really fast. Danilo, what was it like having Parker out with you? Like, what was that relationship like? And what do you think? Like, I don't think this works for every artist, but I'm really happy to hear it does work for the Chainsmokers. It sounds like they're amazing people to work with.
Yeah.
What had to happen? Like this, I know that it went through Chainsmokers, and Chainsmokers was like, "Hey, now this person's with you," and you're like, "All right." But like, how did that feel? What was that like? And then after you're done, Parker, if you want to comment on what you learned and all that stuff, that'd be great.
So, I mean, the way it was presented to me that Parker was going to come was, obviously I met him in 2018, and throughout, the next like full year, we chatted a bunch, through Instagram, and then obviously text, and then we saw each other a couple of times. I think you came to one Jingle Ball in 2018, I want to say.
Yeah, you guys came through it at Indy.
Yeah, and then obviously saw you Lollapalooza and all that, and you had mentioned it, like he had mentioned the whole like coming in and like shadowing all that stuff. But mind you, at that time we still had another tour before that tour was happening. So like my mind wasn't like, yeah, let's map this out now. Like my head, I'm like, all right, I gotta finish this one before anything. And like the one funny story I'll say is you came to the Cincinnati show, which was the first show of the tour, and I was editing photos after the show, and you like Drew was next to me, and like you were standing like right in front of me as I was editing, and you guys were talking about like what days you would come in, and all I remember was as I was editing, hearing the words, I was like, yeah, Danilo will take care of it, just come in, like pick the dates. He'll take care of whatever. I was just like, what's happening here now?
Like they said my name and said I was doing something.
That's all right. I guess we'll go and take care of it. Like then obviously like I waited to see like what days he will pick, and once it was set up, like he came in. And for me, the main thing was like I didn't want it to just be like a shadow of someone who's just looking at what I'm doing during a show. Like I wanted Parker to see like touring isn't just a show. Like there's so many elements, especially a bus tour of that size. There's so many things happening, so many things that that you got to be a part of. So I wanted him to experience that more of on the internship level than being someone who's just there to walk with me.
Like meet me at the venue at 6 and we'll go from there. Like instead it's like wake up with me, get coffee, let's go to catering, let's do it.
Let's talk about the waking up with me, Parker.
I knew that was gonna come up. I knew it.
So Parker's first day, he had a little fun, which I always tell people, it's okay to have fun.
Yeah. What's his definition of fun? That's important.
You know, we like to party, so it's you know, after the show there's an after show, an after party, so it's like, you know, you got to learn how to hang, you got to learn how to manage your time and all that stuff. And you know, for someone who hasn't experienced that, it can be hard, you know, to be able to manage that time. You know, it's a lot of stuff happening. It's a lot of responsibilities, like editing photos, like right. And you know, things happen, and Parker overslept the next day, which is okay. I told him it was okay. Like, it's not a big deal. But I did say to him, I was like, hey, if you want to take it seriously, and if you really want to do this, there's going to be a time that you got to remember that just because they're sleeping doesn't mean you get to sleep. Yeah, because you have work to do.
And nobody's going to tell you it's wrong either. They're just going to be like, you're fired.
Right. That's an amazing point. Like, they will just watch you. They won't tell. They're not trying to fix your mistakes. They're trying to, you know, they want you to come in already knowing all these things. So I told Parker, I was like, hey, it's cool. Like, it's not a big deal. We, you know, that you are here at whatever time it was. And I told him, I was like, think of it this way. You should always be in the venue before they're in the venue. Oh, yeah. You should always be prepared for that, because you don't want them to be in the venue and then they're asking, hey, where's Parker or where's Danilo?
Because you know that. You know that's the one sick thing is they're gonna be like, hey, I want a photo that what? They're like, it's like the worst thing. Yeah.
You know, like, and one thing I told him, I was like, you know, I'm a little bit an extremist, like, and I'm an early riser, so it doesn't matter how late, you know, I'm going to bed, or how late I was editing. At 7:30, my eyes are open, I'm ready to go. It doesn't matter. Like, it's I don't know what it is. It's just how my brain works.
Yeah. Respect.
And I told him, like, you don't have to wake up at 7:30. But be here before the artists are here. You know, think of like whatever reasonable time that is. And to Parker's credit, the next 2 days, he was up bright and early with me in the office, setting up, getting his edits ready for when they wake up. The photos are ready to go.
Good job, Parker.
Yeah, that was probably the thing that stuck with me the most, was that talk, because he pulled me to the side, like away from Drew and Alex's assistant, so he didn't embarrass me. And he was just like, look, like, be here at this time tomorrow. I was like, I got it, because I don't think we talked about that, like, on the first.
No.
Yeah, so in my mind, I was like, well, I'm not technically working, so I guess if I wake up and and another thing was, I got lost in the venue. I like, there was nobody on the bus, so I just wake up in the garage, and I was like, where am I supposed to go?
Yeah.
So two things really quick. Danilo, pretend he's not here. What kind of a student was he? And then Parker, when he had that talk with you, I'm really curious if you had what your mental attitude was, because a lot of people at that point would feel really bummed and, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. Other people would use it constructively. So I'm kind of curious about both those.
So as a student, you know, one of the things I like, I mean, even before that happened, is Parker asked a lot of questions. And there's nothing better from someone who, you know, one of the best traits you could have is don't be afraid to ask questions, because if you don't ask them, you're not going to learn. You never, you know, even if you're going on Google, guess what? You're asking questions on Google, and that's okay too. And during the tour, I told him, I was like, hey, like, think of it as you know, we're going to treat this as an internship. You have questions, let's go through them. You want to learn how to edit? Let's go through that. You want to learn, you know, what the aspect of a day-to-day is? Let's go through that too. And, you know, that's where the you know, I knew that when he had missed that morning, it wasn't a point for me to, like, you know, be mad about it. It's like, hey, like, this is a question that he missed, but let's go over it as to why it's important that he maybe would have had that question beforehand. But yeah, like, we sat through so many different, like, times of the day. Like, you know, if you had questions about editing, we went through it. You know, if you had questions about, like, during the show, especially because there's a lot of things happening during the show. So I don't remember if I did tell you this the first day, but I was like, hey, like, we're not going to go through everything on the show on the first day, because there's just too many things. Like, we'll go through it as your days are here, and we'll go through, like, little portions of the show every day, and then, like, you know, this way you can concentrate on certain things. But yeah, I would say he was a I'll give him, as a grade, I'm gonna give him, because he missed 2 days of school, proper school, I'm gonna give him an A. I would have given you the A+, but you slept in.
That's still better than I did in actual school.
I think we can all relate.
My photography professor almost failed me for taking those 2 days off. He didn't care what kind of opportunity it was.
It's okay. One day you're going to be touring with I don't know who's a ginormous artist
Chainsmokers.
now. Chainsmokers.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna go back and you tell the professor, be like, look, I think I got an A on this one.
Oh, he blocked me on Twitter, so we won't be talking anymore.
Oh my god.
Are you serious?
It's a story that's too long.
We'll save that. We'll save that for next time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you approached it right, which is awesome.
Yeah. Maybe you asked him too many questions, and he just got.
No, I guess.
Yeah, we'll keep going. And then there was a question you had for Parker, right, Steve? I forgot it.
Yeah, and that was, you know what I mean. When sometimes when people do pull you aside, even though it sounds like Danilo, approached it like, look, you're not in trouble here, but, dude, people can approach that with different attitudes of, oh man, I messed up, or no, he's yelling at me, he's mean. I'm kind of curious as to how you, when he pulled you aside and you knew something was going to happen, how you reset your mind to the right attitude, because it sounds like you had the right attitude, and some people wouldn't.
I was actually, like, it's gonna sound weird, but I was actually kind of pumped that he pulled me to the side, because I learned there's gonna be no point of me just showing and taking photos, but hey, how does my editing look? Learning the real stuff like that was what I wanted to get out of those 3 days. So as soon as he told me that, I was like, all right, I have something that I can do better tomorrow. And
that's great.
Yeah, that's the story that I tell if people just ask me about the tour, that's usually the one thing that I lead with was that conversation.
And I think that something that I take away from this, or that is important when it comes to touring, is that when somebody tells you something, approach it like Parker did. It's not personal. It's not, you're not a bad person because they're telling you things. In fact, they respect you because they're trying to help you. So the correct move is to not get upset, to not beat down on yourself. It's to go, okay, I'm going to take this information. I'm going to do better. It's okay if you mess up. It's all about how you handle it. And I think that you handled it correctly and you have the right attitude. I can see it in you. I can feel your energy through the screen. So I know you're doing great. Yeah.
And everybody messes up. Yeah. I mean, everybody messes up.
That's how it works. That's how you're human. That's the point.
That's part of learning is messing up, and then having somebody kind enough like Danilo was to not just go, let him sink, to pull him aside and say, XYZ, this will make you better at this and give you a future.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I just before we lose you here, Parker, I just wanted to let you know that a few people in chat wanted to intern for you. So I don't know if that means for Reddit modding or what it means, but I'll let you.
I'm still 6 months out of college with no job, so I'm really the one looking for.
You don't have to tell them that. You just need to get. You can. Yeah. I'm sure people just want to. I'm telling you right now, you've got a great brain to you, and you're proactive. Even though you don't know that you know all these things, there's actually a lot you can probably teach people. So I wouldn't downplay yourself. Doesn't matter how long you've been out of college. I don't know if Danilo went to college. I didn't go to college. It's really irrelevant. So you're probably more educated than most of us, with the exception of Steve, because he's got some years on us. But
and as I always put on my Instagram, especially when somebody replies back to me about any advice I've given them, and they're like, "Hey, I'm touring now." Yeah. I always say the same thing, which I told Parker as well. Whatever advice I give you, someone gave me that advice. So now that I gave this to you, your job is at some point you're gonna get to the point where someone's asking the same question you asked me. Your job is to share that advice. That advice is not for you to keep. It's for keep passing it forward.
Yeah, don't be selfish.
I had just sat down on my plane whenever you sent that text message, and I was already feeling emotional about the weekend being over.
We got a guy in a B3. He's crying. No, we're about to take off. I don't know what's going on. Well, thank you so much, Parker, for joining us. If you guys want to check him out, it's PX Arker West on everything, and hit him up, bother him. He won't be bothered. He likes to talk. And but thank you so much.
Slide in his DMs.
Yeah. Slide on in.
Yeah, I respond to most people. There is actually there is one specific photographer that I've tried to pass on most of the things that I learned that weekend. I tried to get her to watch tonight, but she's working. So
okay, we'll send her. We'll clip it. We'll have it up on YouTube so we can provide it to them.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Parker West.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys.
Followed.
Bye, Parker.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Parker.
Later, man. Nice meeting you. Man, he's awesome.
Yeah.
I just love his attitude, because that's key, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah, he went into it like, I don't care what you do to me, what you say. I'm here. I'm gonna absorb as much as I possibly can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, Connor, our mod right here, we kind of have a similar relationship. He kind of interns, and I told him, I was like, look, you can make this internship whatever you want. And most people, I'll be honest, in the past have not taken advantage of this. Every week on Friday or Saturday, I get an email with about 10 questions from Connor being like, this is what I want to learn this week. And I'm like, dude, I can't even, I'm just like, so I call him and we talk for like a half an hour and we answer all the questions. And I'm like, but that's his initiative, you know, like, I don't, and it takes that, I think, to learn. So I like seeing that in people. We should have asked when Parker was here, but real quick, do you wear shower shoes or what's your vibe on that when you tour?
Oh, always.
Oh, we got a shower shoes there.
Yeah, I mean,
shower shoes are.
I'm sorry, but
you don't have to apologize. You can do whatever you want.
Some of these, I'm sorry. It's just you can go in there, and if I want to have shower shoes in my eyes, in my ears, like I don't want to touch anything.
That's called. I don't know what that means, but yeah, that's funny. You want disinfectant everywhere. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I was surprised. I thought I was in the minority. I don't wear shower shoes. I thought I was in the minority, but the majority of people we've had on here do not wear shower shoes, which blew my mind. Yeah, dude. No. I would say you're like the third person who does.
Yeah. You have to wear. I mean, like flip flops, whatever kind of would work.
Connor said, "Is that a wetsuit?" Just wear a wetsuit.
I would wear a wetsuit.
A dry suit, whatever. But yeah, okay, cool. Well, that pretty much sums up our brief little interview. Happy we had Parker on here. Hope that helped you guys out. I think it's a really unique situation, and I know it's a very difficult thing to do. It definitely takes the artist wanting to work with you. So respect to Chainsmokers for being such badass people, because that's cool.
Yeah, by the way, that actually to me is really interesting. How open they were when they found out he took over the Reddit and stuff. How open they were, dude, to just including him, and that says a lot.
Well, it shows initiative. You know, he took the initiative to do that, and it added value to what he wanted to bring to the table. So, you know, it wasn't just some random kid. Okay, can I have a photo pass? No, He was putting in the work behind the scenes that most people wouldn't have cared to do that, and he did it.
Yeah, and I think that if you just find the path that works for you, and I'm flaking on what I was just gonna say. But anyway, I think it's cool. I think it's awesome, and I hope that I'll remember what I was going to say in a little bit. Steve, why don't you get to the behind the shot here for the photograph?
So I've been excited for this one for 2 weeks because...
You want to pull it up?
Yeah, I can do that.
Is that cool?
I need to be enabled for screen sharing.
All right, I'm the guy with that.
He's the man with the power.
Wait, do I not know what's coming?
No, he's just pulling up your photograph.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Really simple. Oh, come on, screen.
This is the raw shot.
Yeah.
This is not edited. And as when this shot first came out as the shot for this episode, immediately the feedback was that this may be the hardest image anybody's had to do yet. And that was said over and over was, wow, what a crazy hard image to do. But here's some things I noticed before I get into questions. I always try and look at EXIF data and research people as much as I can before I talk about one of their photos.
Yeah.
And the EXIF data in this shot shows that your camera is set to Adobe RGB.
Yeah.
And I love that because the color gamut in this photo is insane. And I don't think you could have captured this otherwise.
I love that you said that. Yes. And it's on purpose. So
for people who don't know, explain why you do that.
All right. So early on, fresh, picked up a camera within 2 weeks. I discovered this photographer based out of Miami. She does mostly like a lot of lifestyle, very documentary style photography. And her work is phenomenal. And when I discovered her, she was posting photos from like parties in Miami and things like that. That's how it kind of like came up on her name. But then I started discovering her outside work, where I'm like, wow, this is like even more incredible than
what's her name?
Like, she goes by Jenny Abrams.
Okay.
On Instagram.
Connor, can you?
And I remember I used to she was kind enough that whenever I had questions, she would answer them. And mind you, she's younger than me, but she had been doing it, much for a longer time than I had. But she had the answers to all my questions. And I remember one of the things I asked at the beginning was like, hey, what's the difference between Adobe RGB and the sRGB and all this stuff? Why are you because she kept posting about shooting on Adobe RGB, and I didn't understand why. Mm-hmm. And when she explained it to me in regards to the color spectrum of it, I was like, the way she approached it was, my assignment, I don't want to limit anything about what I'm capturing in my photograph. Even if the photograph at the end of the day, it's going to be a black and white photograph that I'm going to edit in black and white, I still want to have that option to be able to get everything color wise that I'm able to, because again, she's from Miami, which is a colorful city.
Right.
So that's the way she went about it. And she went about it that way for everything. And
the other thing is Adobe RGB will help you with a black and white image too, because if you capture all of the data, then down the road, as editing software is updated, that data is there for you. Yeah. And if you have a crazy high gamut, high color saturated scene like this, even if you're going to black and white, it prevents banding in certain colors that it couldn't represent. I mean, a lot of advantage to that here. But speaking of this crazy saturated, I'm colorblind, and there's more colors in this picture than I've probably ever seen. You obviously shoot raw, which is key. But I'm kind of wondering, because the dynamic range in this shot, along with the color saturation issues, is so wide because of the fireworks, the books, projected on the back, the spotlight coming up under him. When you expose, do you tend to expose underexposed for shots like this? And if so, how far? Do you have a setting? Like, I want one stop under, something like that? Or
so for me, this is a particular moment. Obviously, I know that this moment is coming. It's coming during this time of the set. I knew that what the fireworks setup was going to be. I knew the color there was going to be. I get a sheet from my tour manager that lets me see that ahead of time. Because in previous times, yes, it may say pyro, but if I don't know the color, sometimes I want to adjust to the color. Because red pyro and green pyro photograph completely different. So I want to shoot them in a specific way. So I knew this was coming. So for me, a shot like this, that I know it's going to be really over the top lit, not only because of the fireworks, but because of that spotlight that's being on him. I'm not looking at that background. For me, the main subject that I wanted to get exposed correctly was Drew, who's jumping at that moment, because I knew that not only is there a spotlight underneath that platform that he's on, there's spotlights behind him that are obviously are just going to shine right through my sensor.
Right.
And there are two spotlights from front of house directed at him, so he's glowing essentially. So for me, it was I know that I don't know how to explain this, but I'm fully aware that a pyro setup like this, I don't need to underexpose it, overexpose it. I'm gonna go with the subject to get that correct, and I know the fill light from it is gonna be able to cover everything else that I'm planning on it. So I go with that mindset of exposing for him rather than exposing for the fireworks.
Okay, which makes total sense, and yeah. I mean, it's almost not like he's jumping. This is almost like flying.
Yeah.
He's so far off the ground.
Yeah.
There's so much distraction.
Yeah.
So when the mind is sitting in an audience watching something moving, a show taking place, the singer jumping, moving, it's a different processing element than freezing a moment in time.
Yeah.
And having your subject separated from all of the hecticness that's happening in the background. You did that so perfectly here, partially because he's in between the speaker stack on camera left of him and the book on camera right of him. He's right in that spot against the bluish color in the background.
Yeah.
But when you're shooting this, what are you... I mean, you clearly positioned yourself here. Was that to keep that separation? And what else are you thinking to keep subject separation?
A few things. So obviously I wanted that separation because I wanted to capture how big that moment looked. Because I knew if I got closer, it might have been probably a more interesting capture with having him more in focus, more filling that frame. But the moment was much bigger than just that one subject. So that's why I went a little bit further back. The other thing is, as you can tell in that photo, on opposite ends, there's photographers there. You can see one raising his hand, and
there's one on the right
box,
holding the camera up, doing the Hail Mary. Yeah.
So in between those two, there are, if I remember correctly, there were 5 other live stream camera people there with big cameras, big wires everywhere. And there's an additional 2 photographers from the festival that are there. And to me, that spot ahead of me was too crowded. It wasn't going to yield the results I wanted. And at the same time, I knew I was preparing to capture the moment in a bigger form rather than in a more compressed form. So that's where I was. So for me, it was like a matter of timing, knowing that, like, I don't know if this is Tomorrowland, and Tomorrowland stage is as big as a Boeing jet.
It's big.
It's ginormous.
Isn't it like one of the biggest?
Yeah, if not the biggest. Like, it's just outrageous. So being able to capture the whole thing in one frame is kind of impossible, even with, like, let's say a fisheye, unless you're like really far back, obviously. So for me, it was like, I know that I can get as much energy from what's happening as far as the fireworks, the power and everything, and be able to capture him, like the energy that he gives during this moment. Like, and that's for me, like, when I position myself, I knew that I was like waiting for that big moment, waiting for that big end of show pyro and all this other stuff that's happening, and he's going crazy on that platform, that I wanted to, because I'm also like, I actually had a monopod in there, and I went higher. I have a photo before that's from a higher perspective. I came down super quick, looked at it like within seconds. I was like, nope, don't like this, back down. And I just sort of angled it up so you could see more of the fireworks happening.
How far back? Because, like you say, you can see the person holding the camera up using live view on the far right.
Yeah.
How far away are you? Clearly, you're not in a pit.
So this is like the middle divider of a pit. But they had this platform in between that, and it went farther back into the crowd. From that platform,
kind of like a catwalk. Is that like the right? Is that?
Yeah, is that
like
what that it comes out? So you're at the end of the catwalk.
I'm in between the end of the catwalk and that platform.
Okay.
Which was like, no kidding, the only free spot, like open spot, that I didn't have to wrestle with anyone next to me in that moment.
This is hands down the most crazy set I have ever seen in my life. I mean, when you look at this, when this first thing got chosen, I started leaning in going, there's so much happening in here. And yet there's one thing that has nothing to do with what's in the picture that caught my eye. Your file naming convention.
Oh, yes. I'm very proud of that.
Well, and that's the thing, because how you manage 12 to 1,500 shots a day and find them later is a key thing. You've got to be able to manage your data. So the name of the file is TCS-Europe29 _ 0726 _ long number _ DLG. So let me see if I get this right. TCS is the Chainsmokers.
Yes.
Wow.
Europe 2019, obviously Europe 2019.
Right.
7/26, is that a date?
Yes.
So July 26.
Right.
What's the 185308?
Hour, minute, second.
Oh, it's a time. The whole thing's a timestamp.
Timestamp, yeah.
Okay, what's the 7386?
The actual file number.
Okay, the file picture number.
That's how much he got paid for that single photo.
There we go.
That would be incredible.
And what's DLG?
My initials.
Oh, makes sense. Okay, there we go.
So the reason why my initials are in there, I manage, as part of my job, is managing the master Dropbox for the Chainsmokers. I'm not the only photographer that comes along. We have videographers who also take photos. And there are times, again, like I try to get them to do that same file system. This way, when we're looking for something and I see the photo, I can tell who took the photo, and I will remember the initials. So for me, it's like, put your initials there so I know this is you. So when it's being sent out to whoever, even if it's a photo that I didn't take, you're getting credit for that this is your work and not my work. Because since I do photos and sometimes our video guys like put in like some photos that they've taken, I don't want them to like not get credit for that. So that's where the initials comes in.
So I do the same thing. I put my name in my files.
Yeah.
I include the date. I don't include hours, minutes, seconds in the file name. It's in the metadata, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of curious why you include that.
So
awesome.
Originally I got that I used to be in the festival circuit a lot and working with a lot of within the festival's in-house team.
Okay.
And when you get to a point where it's like, let's say 7 or anything more than like 8 photographers in a team, that's a lot of files and a lot of things that are happening at the same time. So one of the ways that it helped us kind of figure things out as far as like when things were happening was the hour, minute, seconds, where it's like, hey, if you go back to the set time, because sometimes like set times are all over the place. You can't remember, whether it was 7 or whatever. But if you look at it, it's like, all right, this was at the at 8 p.m., 8:39, like this is what it was more to help the in-house marketing team be able to locate photos faster.
Right.
But it helps me as well now to be able to locate, like, I know like what time like this was taken and, et cetera, like that.
Obviously make sure your camera clock is right.
Yes, especially if you're traveling, go put it to the time zone you're in.
Right.
Yeah.
So your client list is long. Excuse me. And pretty vast in Florida Georgia line compared to the Chainsmokers, right?
Yeah.
So genre world, it's a big list and it's a wide variety of lists.
Yeah.
Any of those clients or genres make you nervous when you started shooting them?
That's a great question. I would say like more of the event got me nervous more than the client itself. Because for me, like regardless of the client, the way I go in thinking is they're artists at the end of the day. Yes, the personalities may be different, but the outcome at the end of the day is still, it's still the same. They're looking to have the same outcome. Is have a great show. And, if you're there to capture the content, capture that great show. So I never really think of it as like their personalities or like that specific artist. I go more by event. Like, yes, there's more events other bigger events that get me nervous than smaller events. Depending on time and things like that. So, but from an artist perspective, there hasn't been one that there has been one that I was nervous about. But that's like super, super recent. And
okay,
you don't want
to Mr. Specifics.
The situation was like, so the artist is, I'll say the artist is Chris Martin.
Okay.
And I recently did something for him. And because obviously of quarantine and COVID, the setting is very controlled, which means there's not 100 people there. It was just myself, my assistant, Chris Martin, his producer, and his engineer. That's it. And he had to sit there and play a piano acoustically. And again, it's just those 5 people in that room. And I know that it's a very specific thing that we're capturing. And in my head, I was like, the simplest of things could go very wrong. And in my head, that simple thing, I did not want it to go wrong with that specific artist.
Right. Thank you, princess. Not you. Sorry. It was somebody who subscribed, not you.
I totally misinterpreted that.
My bad. I'm like in the zone. I'm like, I gotta thank them. They're being nice. Yeah.
Here's the thing, because with that list that you've got, if Parker were to call you right now, and say, I've got a job with this artist, and I want you to intern for me on this artist, who's your bucket list artist that you would just say, yeah, I'm in?
Ooh, one of them was Coldplay, but that one's checked off now.
That's done and over with. It's old news.
I would say, honestly, okay. I'd love, just because I got to see a little glimpse of her set at Coachella last year. It's Billie Eilish. I love to, I know her show is very dark, but it still has a lot of production in it. And, my background where I came from, I spent a lot of years in that DJ techno world where there is no production. And I pulled off some images that I'm extremely proud of. I would love to see what I could capture on a set of like a moody set of hers. Like I know that I could do something crazy that probably, I don't want to say hasn't been seen because there isn't much that's original in that sense, but like I would like to put my spin to it and see what I could capture. And obviously I won't be able to do that anymore, but since I've seen a lot of his photos from those early 70s, 80s years, I want to shoot Elton John. I definitely want that photo of him playing the piano with 100,000 people in the background.
I was at the Dodger Stadium show, and it was the weirdest lineup because Joe Walsh opened, then it was Elton John, and then the Beach Boys.
Well, okay.
What was I gonna say? Well, we got Gibson on here a few weeks ago. We got to connect you with him. He's Elton's current photographer. He's like a I
He
don't
wasn't
know.
on this one. He was on your Thursday nights.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's on Twitch. He just came and hung out, but he's like a good friend. Like, I'm sure I'm sure a lot of people ask him to come shoot the show, and I doubt he's able to do that, knowing how hard it is for it. But you should meet up with him next time he's in town. He's got a long
Elton
beard,
now,
and he's really cool.
Elton is like now finishing off like his no more like retirement tour.
Yeah, I'll have you know that tour is 3 years long. So
okay, I'm just good to know.
I was like, Ben, how long the tour? He's like, yeah, it's 3 years. I'm like, what?
And Motley Crue's coming back, and Kiss did like 3 retirement tours.
Yeah, but like seriously, he's a good dude. You get along with him great. He comes from our world. Like I want to say he's like 32 or 34, and he started shooting like Reading and Leeds festivals and rock sound stuff in UK. Like he's just he's just like a homie. So like it's not too far out of the question. You just hit him up, or we'll connect you. That'd be great.
Yeah.
That's it.
Cool. Sorry to interject.
I want to see an edit.
Oh yeah, we want to do the edit.
Okay.
Do you have your screen ready, Danilo?
I have my screen ready. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I opened the wrong tab.
Nah, dude, it's no rush.
Yeah, all right. I have my screen ready.
Yeah, just go ahead and share it. It'll pop on up. And if you want to check how it looks, feel free to go on the Twitch to look and see.
Got it.
But
so here we are.
Yeah, there we go. I'll make this a little. I'm gonna make us a little bit smaller. No offense, guys. Got more important things in play. And if you, so I guess like how we usually do this is. A lot of people, or at least myself, I try to think like I really like to know like when you pull this image in, we've kind of gone over every time, it's different when you're editing the photo for the show the next day because you can only spend a few minutes. You have so many to do. It's not like you throw a filter or a preset. Like you can't spend your portfolio amount of time editing it. But if you're sitting and looking at this, after I guess just before you go into editing, what are your thoughts? What sticks out to you? How do you decide on this shot?
So there's a few things for me. There's certain ways I like to edit show photos, especially show photos like this that have such a big production and have so many things going on as far as colors and lights and the subject and all of that. So one thing like for me as far as like the Chainsmokers photos go, especially show photos, is that I want them to be crisp. I want them to be bright. I want them to be, I want it to, like, if it needs to be printed out on a ginormous billboard, that it can sustain that. I want it, like, if it's going in a magazine, I want it to look good. Even if it's just Instagram, I want it to, I want that almost, I want to say super glossy magazine, like, or a print look for a photo, as far as a show photo is for them. Now, that's, I would say, the main way I go about it. Obviously there are other items and other photos that I will be a little bit more experimental as far as like my edits. Like I have, like, I don't know if you can see, but these are all presets that I've created over time.
Yeah. I want to see your names. I love seeing the names. Can you share any of the names?
Wait a minute.
My names are basic. Like mine is just so I can remember exactly.
Dude,
why
I love that. There's no wrong. I'm just interested in what they are. Like, can you tell me a few?
So they all have my name. And obviously, like, there's a little bit overexposed, a little blue tone, underexposed. It's like that orange teal, when everybody was doing the orange teal, like, I just put kind of my own spin to it.
And just real quick, before you go forward, I just want to say that we are, I kind of do a bad job of this, but this is Danilo. He works for the Chainsmokers. This is his photograph of them at Tomorrowland, and he is going to be editing for us. So if you're just joining us, that is what he is doing, and I apologize for interrupting, but I just wanted to update chat. But
LA Cover Gold, and LA Magazine.
Yes. We're here to shine.
So all the LA ones that you see here are presets that I created. I moved to LA a year and a half ago, and I decided that I'm in a new setting. I'm no longer in the East Coast. This is a warm place, right? I'm in a vibrant place. Like, I want my edits to reflect my time here now. So I went back and I started, messing around with edits and trying to figure out what I wanted to represent for my work in LA now that I'm here. So I started to create all these LA edits, and little by little, they've gotten there. Like the ones that say cover, it's for a magazine cover that's coming out next month that hopefully I'll be sharing soon.
Congratulations.
these are specific ones that I created for not only the cover image, but also like the accompanying photos for that article. Right. And I thought, I mean, to me, I thought the edit was really well-rounded in terms that it included, you know, like I said, not only that vibrant, crisp, glossy look, but it also had little tones of, you know, little moody tones here, but not exaggerated. Like they could be very versatile. So I decided to create them and keep them and add it to like that LA sort of folder now that I'm adding onto now.
That's great.
Yeah. And as you could tell, I do have one that's my show standard. This is the one, especially in touring, you know, I'm editing so many photos and I have to do it in such a short period of time that I don't do batch edits. My process is that as the show is going on, I am starring photos as the show is happening, especially photos that I know I'm going to edit or moments that I want to edit in camera. Yeah, I put a star to it in camera. So when it goes into Lightroom, what I do is like I go straight to those first and I edit those first before anything else, because I know those are like the top images that I wanted to edit. And then once those are done, I'll do another run through and see if like there's things I might have missed. Obviously, like seeing something in camera, you may think it's sharp and it isn't. So I have to go back and, you know, maybe like one of the ones in between is sharper than the other.
But so like for me, it gets you to the spot in the film roll, as it were.
Correct, exactly. And so for me, like having that show standard preset that I have is it's the starting point where I start, where it makes things easier for me to see, depending on what the exposure is or what's happening in the photo. I'll know what I have to do right away, like whether I have to break the shadows down or bring them up, or, you know, bring a little bit of more saturation in or take it down. And, or even at that point, be able to say like, you know what, maybe the standard edit isn't the way to go. And I'll go into my bag of presets and be like, and pull something else out that I'd want to use instead of that.
What I and if you don't want to share this, I understand.
Yeah.
In your show standard,
yeah,
what type of things do you have in there? I mean, do you have lens correction in there? Is it mostly, you know, highlights and whites, or I mean, what's mostly in your standard set?
I'm pulling
squirrels.
As much
squirrels.
I'm pulling in as much of detail on the photo as I can, especially when it's, you know, you're shooting things in the dark, you know, in dark spaces. Regardless of you know, how much production and light there may be, you're still shooting at night. So I want to pull in like the shadows. I want to pull the blacks. I want to like race all of that just to see where I'm at, not only in the detail of the photo, but also in the grain of the photo. Obviously, you know, the camera I use performs extremely well. It's made for this. So like, don't worry. The 1DX Mark II.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I know like I don't worry about that as much, but it's a force of habit from when I started. That obviously my camera when I started wasn't in 1DX Mark II. So I was trying to compensate if something was grainy. And so that's what I look for when in my standard show preset.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, you can do, if you want to do the thing, we're here to watch.
All right.
You can kind of talk us through it, and we understand some people zone out and it's hard for them to talk while they're editing, but we can always just kind of narrate. So feel free to tell us to shut up at any point.
For me, the moment I see a photo, the first thing I do is I go straight into, especially because if I'm shooting at an angle that my eyes are not looking at the camera.
Yeah.
Like if the camera's not up to my face, I will go in to make sure that everything's straight. So for me, like what I'm looking for here is like if me like trying to go through like the bottom line down here, if it's something that I need to fix here, or if it's something that I need to fix with the sides of the speaker. So for me in this instance, because he's closest to that speaker, what pleases me in this moment is that straight line with that speaker, because he's just right so next to it that's where I'm going for. The other thing I'm going to look for is that crop just to the side, just because I want to bring in, even though it's crazy wide, I want to be able to minimize that negative space out there just to keep your eyes all in that photo. I don't want your eyes wandering outside of that photo or that frame. So like, I'll just come in a little bit. One thing I do, just as far as touring, especially because a lot of the stuff that I shoot for, you know, it's ending up on Instagram. It isn't ended up on magazines or billboards. It's going straight to Instagram right away. So while I would want to have all of this, more often than not, what I'll do is I'll go straight into the Instagram portrait. crop, and I'll go through that. But for this, I'll just keep it as the original how I edited this, because I did deliver this as a landscape crop instead of a portrait crop.
And how,
so that for me, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, how badly did you want to change that that screen behind them to something else, or are you happy with? I wish it was just a firework.
So here's the funny thing. A lot of people, especially when I was starting out, made it such a huge deal about Photoshop and adding pyro or changing so many crazy things because they didn't like it. And for me, the way I saw it, I was like, you know what? I think the moment was so amazing enough that I want to leave it as is. So if you happen to come across the photo during when the Chainsmokers posted, for me, it was like, for you to remember that exact moment, like for you to look at it and not go, wait, I don't remember that happening when it happened.
You won't alter, or you will. You won't ever alter, or will you ever alter, or no? Like, as far as, I guess,
never say never.
What's your line?
Cloning something out.
Yeah, what's your line?
Yeah.
Is it like some people won't even clone something out, but some people will be like, I need to, like, let's say there was 3 fireworks on the right and 2 on the left. They're like, I'm adding another one. It's symmetrical. Like, what's your...
I won't do that.
Okay.
I won't add extra fireworks. I'll remove, like, let's say, especially like if I'm closer and I could see it, I'll remove water bottles from, like, if they're sitting next to the piano or something like that, like I'll remove that just because, like, I don't want to see a water bottle.
Well, and I say this every time, and that is, it really depends on your outlet. I mean, if you're shooting for news, you've got journalistic integrity issues to worry about.
I'm so happy you said that.
These are marketing shots. This is not it's journalism, but this is a commercial shoot.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so for this, like, cool. I know most people.
I like hearing about that. Sorry. Thanks for answering.
I saw some edits where, like, they remove this photographer here and they remove that, which is, to me, is okay. Like, if it's something that bothers you and you want to go ahead and remove that just because aesthetically you think it's going to work for you, go for it. I'm at the end of the day, it's subjective. If it works for you, go with what works for you. Like, for me, it doesn't bug me. It's in the moment, like, I've never had someone tell me, oh, there's a guy in the corner is distracting. I'm like, there's other things happening in the photo that could be even more distracting than just one guy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are ways to play with it, which I'll show in, like, now that I start editing. So that's my crop. That would be, like, what I would want to show as far as, so you can see, like, obviously on the sides, I've removed a lot of that space that I didn't want in that photo.
We just
I was shooting super wide.
Crop. We're good at, we can tell we're all photographers. 5 minutes on a crop. Let's go.
So for this, obviously, like, I can see a lot of detail in it already, so I'm not worried too much of it. But for me, what I want to do is I want to make sure that, especially because of the haze that the smoke is creating, there's also haze in this stage that it looks softer in a lot of places, especially, like, once you see me, like, a lot of these lines are very soft. Obviously some of them are sharper than others, but for me is like, I'll go into clarity right away, and I never go above 50, mainly just because then it just doesn't look real to me, like, once you start going into that crazy above 50. But for me, like, what clarity does in that sense is I am able to see these lines much clearer, and it allows me to, like, if I want to go into shadows, it allows me to see, like, how much shadow I need to pull. Like, for me, like, for me, pulling the shadows up, like, it seems like I'm adding even more haze than I need to. So I'm trying to zero in more on that center of the photo instead of the outside part, especially, like I said, like, there's the cameras on both sides. Like, I want your eyes to be fully centered on Drew, on what's happening and what's happening in the background. So for me, like, I'll do the same thing. And one of the things I do is I do love adding a little contrast, not too much. I did too much there, but just enough that I want my blacks to be black. I always say that, like, especially when it comes to black and white photos, like, you see some photos and to me it's like, oh, that's more black and gray or white and gray. It's like, I don't see the black. And not to say that you can't go with that, but
it's your personal preference. It's your photo.
Yeah,
my
personal preference has always been, I want to see those blacks be black.
Use the full spectrum, yeah.
Yeah, as far as the whites in this one, I'm going to just pull them down a little bit, just mainly because of this whites, the light hitting from this one pyro shot is obviously, like, angling more towards me. So that's why it's probably a little bit brighter than most. And obviously, like, come back and adjust on the highlights, because I'm mainly, like, even though I'm looking at the background and the pyro, I'm still looking to make sure that he is not like
Blown
underexposed or overexposed. I still want to maintain his clarity. So I'll show a little trick that I do in a little bit. So I'm going to leave it here. And sorry.
Oh, we're getting tricks. I'm
just gonna say the same thing.
I like the way you deliver stuff. It makes me excited. You're like, all right, I'm gonna tell you a secret. I'm like, I'm in. Let's go.
I mean, he's literally pre-selling his edit. I love it.
So yeah, so for this, I'm gonna leave him closer to where it was, where he was a little bit what's happening here now? Oh, where he's a little bit overexposed, and I don't even know what's going on here with.
It's okay, man. It's computer.
Oh,
stuff.
I see what's happening. My apologies. I see what's happening now. It's jumping into another edit. Anyway, sorry. So where it was like up here, where he looks overexposed, like his skin tones and everything. But the highlights for me is not on him. The highlights for me are more in regards to the pyro, because that's what's going to be affected the most in this scenario. So I'll start there, and I'll come back and adjust contrast a little bit. I'll pull down the blacks a little bit more because I want those blacks to be there. Another thing I'll do, and it's because again, I didn't start with a 1DX Mark II, so it's a force of habit, where again I said I want this to look as glossy as possible. I'm going to my sharpening, and I stay at 50 in my sharpening. I never go above it, and I'll go straight directly to my luminance, and I'll go up to 25.
And this is the luminance noise reduction, guys. Just
noise reduction, correct. Yep, okay. Just because it's going to remove, especially like in these areas that you won't see it, in a laptop. But for me, I'm thinking, what if this photo is blown up one day? Who knows? Like, I don't want to see that grain on a billboard. So that for me is, as you can see, he's still a little bit overexposed, but everything else around the image is coming around, especially these lights here that at the beginning were like a little bit too much overexposed, like, because of the angle I'm in, obviously. One thing I do like to check, I don't use it a lot, is, I'll hit the option to check my masking to see if it's something that I can adjust, but it won't matter in this moment in regards to the sharpening. Like even if I leave it at 100, it won't make too much of a difference.
I love what you're doing.
Real quick before you go farther, I just had a question from chat. Let's see if I see this name right. Darkos15 wants to know, in a shot like this, what do you suggest to focus on? Would it be the background or the subject? Like, what do you usually try to grab focus on in an image like this?
So for me, the focus that it's on Drew, because the action is Drew. Yep. Yes, there's a lot of things happening, and you're gonna look at this pyro shot, but you're gonna be like, why am I shooting this moment with something's happening that I'm shooting this photo that it's besides the fireworks?
And was it over your head, or was it you saw it?
The camera?
Yes, they wanted to.
It was a little bit over my head.
Like, you looked and you're like, all right, I gotta get a little higher. Gotta get over the speaker.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, fair enough.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm also trying to crop out the people that are right in front of me. So I'm like, that's why the angle was a little up, because I didn't want to have too many heads in front of me, because there was a lot of tall people in front of me. So I was trying to be above their head.
Ask them to leave? What's going on, man?
No, because those people that work for the festival.
I'm just kidding.
So again, like with the masking, like, yes, it could work, but it's not needed in this scenario. So I'm just going to leave it off. It's sharp as is with the sharpening and the clarity. So that's one thing. So for the most part, this photo is, as far as the main edit is done, but I'm a stickler for the blues. And I'll give a little secret. I don't know, maybe it's not a secret. Maybe most people do that. How I handle blues when it comes to concert photography, like, you'll see a lot of purple or a lot of teal in it. And for me, like, the best way to capture or at least edit a blue to a true blue is just to bring down purple a little bit. So you can see more, like, you could start seeing like that purple is going away and it's becoming a little bit more teal, and then coming back to your blue, I'm bringing it to the blue section, where it's going to give you a more truer blue than that purple hue you get from, like, especially like stage and stuff like that, because they have like film over the lights and it's things you can't really control, but you can control it in your edit. And I think I did too much there. Yeah, so that would be it for me right there. I don't go into any of the other colors as far as anything. Like, there are some areas that I probably would have pulled the highlights on it just to make it a little slightly brighter, just to make it pop a little bit more. and the luminance of the blue, but not much. As you can tell, I'm only doing +3, which isn't much, but it just adds just a little bit. After that, what I'll do is I'll come back to my contrast because I'm still trying to pull those blacks. I've done so much that it's just kind of removing, where I'm trying to bring in the focus more in, like I'm trying to make that focus more towards that center point. I could go in and just do what is it called? My vignetting, but I'm not huge on vignetting because then it just removes detail and I don't like that. So I rather do the vignetting a more natural way with contrast and shadows and your blacks rather than adding that black circle around it, just because then you can do that. And then because again, I want this to be crisp. I want this to be vibrant. I used to be a vibrance guy. I just hit up the vibrance right away and it kind of stopped working for me. Like I wasn't liking, and I'll just go straight into the saturation and I'll see without going too crazy where it makes sense of how amazing that moment looked in real life, because there's so many things happening, so many colors, so many lights, all that stuff. And while, most people think this is done, for me, it isn't done because he is still overexposed. So I always joke that I use Lightroom a little bit like Photoshop.
Is it ever really done? Sorry.
Yeah.
That's true.
No, I was just thinking, I was like, how do you decide when it's done? Oh, I don't know.
So there's for me, things I didn't see you change though.
Yeah.
You didn't change your white balance and you don't do lens correction. Is that a normal thing or just for this shot?
For this shot. I will do lens correction. It has to be something that's really dark, and in this case I really didn't need to do it. It's something that I when I saw the photo I knew I didn't have to do it. There are other photos like you can see at the bottom here. I do believe one of these does have a lens correction. Actually, yeah, one of these two right here has a lens correction.
Okay.
But for this one, I didn't need to because I knew that I wanted to keep those borders a little darker.
It looks good.
And that image,
looks good. I like it.
Sorry for us interrupting you so much. We just, dude, I know you're like going in it, but we just love hearing more about it. So thank you for answering the questions.
I love the way you edit, actually.
Yeah.
But the white balance, you don't change your white balance either?
No. Mainly, I will change it if it's necessary, but for the most part, I think the camera does such an amazing job in maintaining that balance that, where I'm at now, it's almost dead center on everything. Okay. Like I'm at 4,600, well, it'll be at 5,500 would probably be dead center, and it's not that far off, and it's not affecting too much of the hues in regards to like the purples and everything. Like right here in this section, there is a little bit of.
Where are you pointing to? I can't see it.
Oh, I'm sorry. To the left side of the photo.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Where it's has that like magenta, which now thank you for pointing that out. I would come down and just start removing a little bit of it. Just because it kind of just
how weird
feels
is
out
it
of place.
to edit while two people ask you questions?
I know.
So why are you here? I'm trying to edit.
But like I said, like remembering that when I started I was editing mainly for back here because I knew I was going to do something specific for Drew because he's still overexposed. So on the road, to achieve perfection is very hard. Like I'm never going to have the most perfect edit. I don't have a pen and a pad to be able to go perfectly along the lines, but I will try my hardest. I'll go into my brush and I will just come down and bring the highlights down, and I will just go a little bit over him. And for me, it would be more this way I can just control him without affecting the rest of the image. And again, like I need to just do like certain points. I don't need to do like everything. But I'm doing a really bad job in this.
Well, it's for the sake of the example. This thing is very tedious and it takes a long time. So he's just showing you that. But if you were to actually turn this in, it was going to be blown up. It would be more meticulous, right? Like we don't want you to do this for everybody's sake.
Yeah. So, but right here, like I can tell, like it's a little bit too much. So I'll still go back and adjust it. And once that's ready, he is now he matches essentially the exposure of the image instead of him being too bright or anything like that. And what I'll do here a little bit is I'll probably come into the exposure just because I've made the things a little bit too dark, and I'll just add like a 1, and it makes such a huge difference, that 0.1 point, that you don't need to go crazy with it. Just follow it little by little. Be patient with it, and you'll get to exactly where you want. Like for me, where I want to get is right at the 0.2, and that's it.
Can you give us a little before and after action? A little.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll work because it was a virtual copy. It's the backslash, but I don't know if it'll work because it was a virtual copy.
Yeah, it will.
Backslash
will show you before then.
It'll go to your original virtual copy.
Oh, so the original is still edited, and it's edited crazy.
So there you go. There you go. And then Command.
Yeah. So there you go.
I don't know why it's so slow. Nah, dude, it's because there's a lot going on.
Yeah. So there, this is like the crazy version, and obviously the raw unedited version.
Well, that was great. Before we get out of here, do you guys have any questions for his editing real fast? I guess the one I saw was people want to know if you retouch like their face, which I'm assuming means blemishes, and I don't know if it matters.
I will if it's obviously if I'm doing what do you call it? If I'm doing like portrait, like you can see at the bottom I'm scrolling, there's a lot of lifestyle photos and like obviously a lot of setup photos, and I will go and like yeah, right. I'll pick one real quick. Maybe I can show it. Like a photo like, oh God, there's just too many in this one album. All right, here we go. I know where I'm at now. A photo like, here we go. A photo like this, I will go and retouch some things, especially if it's like, we're constantly traveling. So obviously their eyes, and they're a little bit, little bags under their eyes. I want to still be able to maintain their image a little bit and make sure that they look good.
Yeah.
So I will retouch some things. I don't go crazy on it. Yeah. So I mean,
you don't ever make them taller.
Right. No. So, there is one photo that came out that was really hilarious. People thought I photoshopped something inappropriate. And I was like, no, I didn't. It was as natural as you can imagine it was.
Yeah, that's just what it is.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, people legit thought I made this ridiculous Photoshop. I was like, you really think I'm going to spend that much time Photoshopping that? You probably think I'm crazy.
We got Miranda McDonald in the chat.
I was just going to say the same thing.
I'm sure you know.
Hey, Miranda.
She said hi.
Yeah. She was on here before. She was awesome. So, good homies. Good LA homies. Let me see with this question. Somebody wants to know, like, I don't know about you, but Darkos wants to know if you delete any of your photographs or if you keep everything.
By the way, should I stop sharing?
Yeah, you can stop sharing. Yeah, you can do it.
I'll stop sharing.
There we go.
I never delete anything. I keep every raw, whether I'll use it or don't use it, whether it's a blank shot of a stage that's completely dark. I'm just going to keep it regardless. It's more of a fear that maybe I'll hit
I'm in that boat with you, man.
Like delete buttons too many times, and then I deleted something I didn't want to. So you know what? I'd rather keep everything, regardless of what it is. Yeah.
I vibe. It's not worth the risk, right? All it takes is one time to accidentally delete something, and you're like, well,
oops.
God, darn it.
Well, and I know people who are very strict that they will never delete in camera. Like people go through it during the show and they'll delete them. And I've seen people I do it, but I see people have actually corrupted their cards by doing that before. Too.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Man.
Yeah.
I have no, that's not that. I was going to say, I heard the most nightmare story ever of an artist who had like a video crew out with them. And they shot like they rented like a ship and shot like the whole ship. Did like a whole video, whatever. It was like multiple SD cards. They shot so much video, they had somebody on tour just to dump the footage. And the next day they put all the chips, the SD cards in solo cups, and they got thrown away. And they spent like 4 hours looking for them, and they couldn't find them, and the whole video team got fired.
Oh no!
Wow. Yeah, that's a bad mistake. That's not one that
I was like, how
Danilo's
bad
going to pull you aside
up?
And say, yeah, you need to not put your SD cards in a solo cup.
Solo cup, yeah. Oh God.
Can you imagine? I was just like, oh, you guys messed up.
Oh, my heart hurts just thinking about it.
So, two questions that were in here that I saw. Where was the one? Madinab07 said, how do you decide which pictures you're going to send to Drew and Alex?
So there's a lot of trust involved here. They know, I know what they like. I know what they like to post. I know what they like to share. I know, we've had a system where, we'll do a carousel on Instagram, and the first photo is going to be a lifestyle photos, and the remainder of the photos is just sort of like telling a story of the day, where there was like different aspects of what happened, including the show. So we'll have, portrait, a lifestyle photo of them in the beginning, and then it will follow with like, some candidates of them, and follow with show photos, close-ups, big stage, pyro. Like it hits a lot of different little spots of the entire day. So it's like a day recap. So for me, like what I'm editing looking for that recap. What are the best things I can show? Yeah, it's actually, to tell the story. So for me, it's like, what are the top photos that I can deliver that will tell the best story possible for them?
Okay, and then Lisa D233 said, what's the best export setting, or I would probably reword it to, what's your export setting for Lightroom? For social media from Lightroom.
For social media. So you can Google this, and it's, you have to stay on top of Instagram, especially for Instagram. So I export for Instagram. I don't post a lot of stuff on Facebook, unfortunatately. And I've recently just started. Some people do, but I recently, started posting more on Twitter. For the longest time, I didn't want to share any photos on Twitter. I kind of left my Twitter to be just random things I would say, and then I realized there's actually a section of people that want to see photos on Twitter as well. And for me, my expert setting is 2048, 96%, just because it still maintains the quality of it, of let's say 100% quality, but the file is much smaller, and it's Instagram tends to handle that much better than if you went at 100%.
Would it be like about 4% smaller, maybe? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but it's still, even though it's like 4% smaller,
but it's massive when it comes to file size, probably, huh?
It's like a squirrel smaller.
Right, right. There we go with this. I like this squirrel talk. And then
wait, what's a scroll? I missed this. What's going on? I missed it. Oh, squirrel.
I should say it's 2048 long edge.
Yeah, pixels.
Always long edge.
Yeah.
And I always sharpen for screen, obviously, because it's just going on your phone and doesn't need to be sharpened for anything else except for that. That's where I keep it at.
Okay.
Cool. Well, I guess what we want to do next is we got most of the questions out there, I think.
You want me to bring them up?
Oh, the last question is, you can grab the photos. The last question was from Christina CCC. They want to know what happens if something breaks on tour. Like, is it on you, or how do you handle that?
As far as equipment,
I'm assuming equipment, not your arm.
You just, unfortunately, pray that you're in some place that it could be replaced quickly.
Yeah, maybe have a backup camera.
Right. So, I always travel with 2 cameras.
Do you wear them both, or one's just a backup?
I do wear them both. Yeah, I do wear them both. My best advice is in that moment, just because obviously I've been there where a lens sort of died on me as far as the autofocus. I've had wireless triggers die on me in the middle of a festival. Is don't panic, take a deep breath. If it requires you to take 5 minutes, take those 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Compose yourself and finish the job with what you got.
No client won't know.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. They won't know. They'll just say oh, you took a different artistic take on this for this shoot.
Everything's a fisheye. Cool.
Sure. Yeah. And there's ways to manipulate. If you only have a wide, crop in a little bit more. If you have a zoom, maybe go a little bit wider or a little longer.
Well, and your audience is, for you, your audience is the artist.
Right.
And just like for them, if they're on stage and something goes wrong, most of the time they'll keep pushing through so the audience doesn't know. You do the same thing. You just go through so the audience doesn't know.
But take that time to compose yourself, because I know I have had kids hit me up and say they just freaked out, and then the rest of the shoot they couldn't pull it together and they're not happy. And I'm like, you could have just 5 minutes of your time to just sort of breathe and relax and focus on what's in front of you will do wonders for the rest of the set, regardless of whatever mishap might have happened.
Yeah, unless you just have first 3 songs, that 5 minutes might be detrimental. But so what we're gonna do here is, guys, moving forward, just for anybody who's here, and we'll announce this, but we're just gonna use the Raw Editing Challenge hashtag. You don't actually have to respond to my tweet anymore, but we're just gonna scroll through some of the submissions from these last. Well, usually it's a week, but I think we're going on almost a month here. And
yeah, it's
just
been
given
a while.
the circumstances, so we're gonna Danilo, sorry, if anything sticks out that you saw and you really liked for a particular reason, let us know. Steve will enlarge it, and we can kind of go from there. But we just like to talk through and kind of critique some of these. And we got Alan Hess right off the top here.
Yeah, and that's what amazed me was Alan put in fun shot and participated.
Do you know Alan? Danilo?
Do you know?
No,
Alan?
I've never met Alan. No.
So Alan is literally wrote the book on concert photography. Wonderfully nice guy from San Diego.
Yeah, he's very, very nice. Amazing to talk to. Very good teacher too. He does a lot of like workshops and stuff.
I'm honored that he took on it.
Yeah, he's more within, like, I would say he's more within not old fashioned, but the original like teaching ways. Like he does a lot of expos and things like that.
He used to do Photoshop World,
the concert
World.
Yeah, that's how I met him.
At Photoshop World. And he's a house photographer for a big arena in San Diego.
He's got more hair than all of us.
Yeah, he's got way more hair than I do.
All right,
this is what the heck?
It's Tom, dude.
Oh yeah, I saw this.
Hold on, let me back that up.
Dude, Danilo, we had this guy on the show because he did a live edit for us. He always does the craziest stuff.
This is so insane.
His arms are going up.
Wow.
Hold on, watch the end of this.
What happens?
The arms go up. Oh yeah.
Really subtle.
He is awesome. Dude, we gotta have like a special section where it's just like what did Tom do this time?
That is so amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
You know what? Stop in that photo real quick for Brian Snell.
Yeah.
I want to say this because I've seen this a lot on, and I'm glad that what's coming up after that one too. But I want to talk about that specific photo, Brian Snell.
Hit that one bigger, yeah.
Yeah. So, I see this a lot, and to me, like, I wanted to kind of speak about it because I was hoping that we would see. I saw a lot of these kind of edits, and especially with the more traditional concert photographer that would look at an image like this and question why the edit was that way. And to me, like, I love an edit like this mainly because it was their take, their particular way of editing, their particular way of how they wanted to portray that photo. And there's a lot of connotations when it comes to like this faded sort of look. And to me, like, there's some photos that if you add a fade, like you did something like this, it almost looks even more grandeur. Like it adds such, like, almost, I can't even explain it. Like,
you're talking about getting rid of the blacks, right? Like getting rid of the pure,
right.
like you were, when you edit them, you specifically made a point to say, I like to maintain that range, but this person has killed them. Yeah.
Yeah. But I wanted to talk about these edits like this, like, people call them like, this is a moody edit. There's a lot of mood, and like, especially like, again, like I said, like with the more traditional concert photographer, right? Took out all the blue, but like the more traditional concert photographer would not like something like this. And I would tell people, if this is what you like, remember that at the end of the day, this is a subjective world, and you will find an audience editing whichever way you want to edit. If this is the way you want to edit, go for it. Add your own little take to it. Add your own little spice, your little sauce, whatever it is.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think like the important thing, and I'm sure you can kind of vibe off this, is like, it doesn't really matter where you're at. It's just part of your journey, right? Like, this isn't how you edit from now on. This is just what you're learning. Like, and that's the cool thing I like about this challenge. And again, thank you for letting people edit your images. Like, they get to try out the stuff that maybe they can't do for work, or maybe they can't shoot these images, and they can kind of see how it looks and say like, hey, this isn't my style, but I want to.
Well, and Brian's going to have the same problem 5 years from now. He's going to look back at 5-year-old edits and go, I can't put that in my portfolio. We all progress through time. Yes. Find your own voice.
It's also Danilo's image, so it'd be really weird if he did.
Yeah, that would be true. Yeah.
Hey man, that's mine.
This one right here by Bammer is insane.
Oh yeah, Emily's awesome. They are a frequenter of the show.
I like that she kind of went it. I didn't see a vertical crop in this. I like that she went with a portrait crop.
Did they add like a graphic over the top? What's going on there? I see like, it's like on a background or something.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
She cloned some of the like fireworks type stuff and stuff in front of him.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorites that I saw.
Which this one, Millie?
No, the one from
Emily.
Emily?
Yeah.
That was one of my favorites.
Now here's the first black and white I saw.
Love that.
Yeah, I think that overall, I
like
think
these edits are so insane to me. Like I would have never thought to do this, and seeing like this photo transform and like it looks like a different world to me.
Yeah.
It's like really badass. I love that.
That was in somebody's head. That's what I love.
Yeah,
That came out of somebody's mind.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think the thing I noticed the most about this, or like with the photographs in general, when you edit them, is like when the repercussions for modifying the color aren't noticeable, people really take that, they full send that, because there's like you really can't do that fully with like that same edit on a portrait just wouldn't work, because you would say, oh, what's going on with their skin? But when it's all these things that people are like, well, I don't know, I guess this guy could have been red, like it just doesn't matter. And I like that people are like, they just turn it up. And
Steve's edit.
I went for color. Here's Connor's.
Yeah. And thank you guys for submitting, Connor.
What the?
Oh, this was another one that had like a starry sky.
They got rid of the bottom too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That almost looked like I'm in Iceland somewhere. And there just happened to be a concert there.
Like this guy's jumping with fireworks. Let's get him.
High contrast black and white.
Yeah. That one had the full spectrum of blacks and whites. Yeah, thank you guys. What is? Oh yeah, that. It's interesting. It's also interesting to me.
This is awesome.
Yo, this reminds me of something I would make in like a Photoshop class. Like I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna put this on here and like do all the whatever I want to it. I like it.
Maybe Paul.
I'm waiting for one that's coming up. I mean, I think it's coming up soon. Once I see it, I'll give it to you.
I kind of like the more monotone type.
Yeah.
Tell me if you see it. The one you're thinking of. Was it on Twitter or on Instagram?
No, on Twitter. It was on Twitter. I mean, yeah, you're right. There were so many. Oh.
Nice job, Tequila.
Yeah.
I love that this one was flipped.
Oh yeah.
I need to edit this photo. Yo, I opened this photo up for a little bit and I said,
this was a cool one.
Yeah.
That's like
that looks like almost like a Oh, I was just gonna say that, an album cover.
All right, I take it back. You say it. Go.
No, yeah, this looks like an album cover.
Oh wow, I was gonna say that. Crazy. No, yeah, agreed. I like the crop.
Yeah, actually, that one worked really well. Square. I like.
For what it's worth, Raw Editing Challenge and Connor is the same person, so that's why you see him. He runs the Twitter, so it's funny to see either that response or his response from his Twitter. You see Gasky.
Any idea how far down it is, Danilo?
No. Oh, there it is.
This one?
Back right there. Right there. Way to put that image in the background.
Oh, dude. He even put the little curly cues in the corner of the page.
Yes. Well done.
That person edits. This person edits. This person Lightroom.
I remember I saw that and I was like, I was waiting to see how many people would be bothered by the image, and that's because that's a screen in the background. And obviously, like it's not a full high definition screen. So the image that's being captured is moving. So when I take the photo, it's not going to be what you see Drew. It's going to be distorted because of the pixels. So now this person made it so you actually see what the actual image is.
Dude,
you did a nice job at editing in the corners too.
Yeah.
I did a tour with an artist for like 2 weeks in UK, Europe, and they were using monitor screens as well. And some of them they would do live feed of the crowd, and some of them they would play music videos. And this one time during their set, they would all jump up in the air, and the same screen would be on every time of like this person going like, ah. And every time I'd get the jump shot, it had the same screen, and I was just like, can you guys just change the screen for me? Like, it's the same one every day. All right, here's some Instagram ones. Yeah, I kind of get littered, so hopefully the hashtag will.
This one was interesting to me actually. This is by Rigalucci.
Yeah.
And I love the detail that he or she got out of it.
Yeah, they did a great job.
I love the split also of the colors in that one.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that one on the right. Yeah.
What? Why did it go zoom so much?
I think that's just what they posted. Oh no, they didn't. I don't know.
No.
You're getting played.
Let me zoom out and try it again.
You zoomed all the way out, Steve.
Oh, there you go.
We've entered the matrix.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, Captain Lasagna, Connor has thrown him in the chat if you guys want to check these out for yourself. Yeah, these are great. I like these.
Oh, this was a good one. I really liked this.
I didn't see that one. That's great. That's a great. To me, like that would have been. Yeah, I mean, this is an Instagram post. This is If this is a great way to separate. You know, people always ask, what's one way I can separate myself from everybody else?
Do stuff like
Think
that.
like that.
Think
like that.
Yo, we had somebody who did like a graphic one time, and somebody came and hired them from one of these challenges. I was like, yeah, that's a way to do it.
I even love the tape.
Yeah.
That they didn't do a solid color background, but they have the little blemishes even on the background.
I bet that shows really well.
Who was that? I gotta say their name. Who was that? Board Art.
Yeah, Connor has it in the chat.
Okay, cool.
Let's see, Thomas.
Yeah, that's gonna get into last time's stuff.
Yeah. We've got some down here still, but yeah, we're mostly getting into the last ones.
I love how many people just went crazy with the way that they manipulated the colors. Some desaturated, some saturated more, like the different tones of the colors. Like I love that.
I love when we were doing the editing, and it was right at the beginning, and you're talking about the clarity, and you're like something like, I want this to look real, and I was like, have you seen this photograph? It just looks unreal to begin with, man. I'm sorry, but it's just crazy. Like, are we looking at the same thing? Yeah, it was. I was like, all right, good try, Danilo.
Yeah, it's such a cool shot. It just really is such a cool shot.
Well, if you guys have any questions, we're going to chat for another 5 to 10 minutes here. So if you have any questions for Danilo, obviously we need to keep it strictly about he's photographed. He's the photographer for the Chainsmokers and Florida Georgia Line. However, the questions need to be about him, not about the artist. So anything you have about his career, about what he does, about something you heard you want specified, feel free to ask now. Otherwise, Steve and I are just going to keep grilling him.
And by the way, keep in mind, give him some love. Go follow him. He's got, if you look at his mentions on the screen, Danilo Lewis on Instagram, and it's, what was it again? Real Danilo Lewis, because there's probably a fake on Twitter.
Okay, Connor,
I'm having a battle right now.
Connor, dude, you are amazing.
Yeah,
Connor's on it.
Dude, I'm telling you, I don't know a more efficient and stoked human than that guy. He
put 5 links in by the time I got done saying.
He's probably got a clipboard up. I'm telling you, when he calls me, he's like, I'm just here to make your day better, man. You know, like, he's just all about it. Like, I like him a lot.
I love that.
See, look at that. He already typed doing the best for you guys.
He found a Flickr account that I haven't been able to log into in ages. And you know what? You want to see where I started? Or you want to see where I started? Go look at that and remember, like, even if you're starting out now, we all start somewhere, and then we get to a specific place in life.
Which brings us to Your Music Photos asked, how'd you get started in music photography?
And more specifically, if you want to segue, there's another question. If you want to segue into how did you get started with Chainsmokers, and you could kind of
both of them are related to each other because it all starts in DC. I'm from Washington DC, and I got started in music photography in Washington DC. My best friend, this was 10 years ago, was starting out as a DJ, and I was always that one friend that had a camera and would go, if it was a party or a get together, I would always be the one taking photos. And he had asked me to come take photos at a gig that he had. It was a big gig, and he wanted to get content. He had that foresight 10 years ago to say, hey, I think I need content of this. Like, people should see that I'm doing this. And obviously, being my best friend, I went there to support him, help him out any way I could. And it's where I discovered that there was this thing called nightlife photography, which I had no idea that even existed. And what turned from that is the promoter that booked him owned a bunch of venues in DC and asked me if I would want to do that for his other venues. And again, I had no idea of like nightlife photography business, like getting paid to do this. I was just like, what? Like, I had a day job.
I was like, what?
In a completely different world, away from photography or music, and I kind of went with it because I always loved photography. My mother's an artist, so she's a painter, photographer, and I always was around that. So I always enjoyed it, but it was always for me. It was always just things that would interest me in that moment. And for some reason, I loved the music that I was listening to, which, at that moment was like the dance music. And I had a chance to be involved in that scene. So I took that chance. I went for it, and I started like in a really small club, and the capacity was like 250 people. And, again, like this was 10 years ago. So that promoter was, at the forefront of dance music when it came to, at least in the scene in Washington, DC. And as that scene grew, his clubs got bigger, the artists got bigger that were coming in. Fast forward to now, he has the number one venue in the world. I mean, I'm sorry, not in the world, in the US. It's called Echo Stage in Washington, DC.
Cool.
That was my last home venue that I worked at. And, they gave me a chance to grow. They gave me a chance to, be able to learn from so many people that, there was already photographers that they had hired that, were more experienced than I. And, they took on mentor roles to teach me things. And especially when it came to like concert and music photography and other aspects of, the business of photography. And because of that promoter is how I met the Chainsmokers, because he was booking them in 2014, and they were coming to the club that I worked at. And, they were doing the first show that they did was 300 people at a small club. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, I've never heard of the Chainsmokers. I didn't know who they were. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever. Like, I didn't think much of it. And I had one of the greatest nights out working that I've ever had, and slowly started to become friends as they kept coming back to that venue. And during that time, I was also shooting a lot of festivals, especially in dance music and live music. And they were, in the lineup. So I kept seeing them in DC, and I would see them in these other states. So they got to know me, and I would always make it a point to go say hello, for them to always remember my face. I would always say, hey, Danilo from Echo Stage, from DC, and, the more they saw me, the more they got to know me. And, one day I just decided, I was like, this is the artist. I love what they did. I love their team, their personalities. We match well, and I really wanted to do more for them. And I just slowly started, pestering Alex and their manager to hire me. And then one day they asked me if I wanted to come do like a weekend gig, and that was that. That was 2016, early 2016.
No, you've been with them for a while. Congrats. It's hard to maintain a relationship that long. Good job.
Yeah.
Well, and that's also a really good tip on you made the comment when you first shot them, you didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
And I know so many photographers that show up for the headliner.
Yeah.
Or don't, because they don't know the opening artist. And I always tell people, shoot people you don't know, shoot people that, photograph people that, are the opening acts, because A, you never know if they're going to be the next Metallica.
Exactly.
And B, you've got artists that are hungry, they're young, they're going to give 150% on stage because they want to be the next big act.
Oh, yeah.
Great photo opportunity and great ability, probably an easier ability to make contact.
Nobody cares who people are all the time. They just care what you photographed and how you did it. Like, they're not like, I mean, sure, it's cool if you have a photo of Drake or, somebody big. People, obviously, there's a star factor to it. But a cool photo is a cool photo. Who cares who's in it,
Well, and the good example there is with him going back to look at old classic rock photos.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people now that would go look at those classic rock photos. Let's be honest. They don't actually know that that's Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin when they see it.
Right.
Right? Because they didn't grow up with Zeppelin, but they look at it and know it's an iconic photo.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. It shouldn't matter what the subject is at the end of the day. Like, you should go out and, one exercise you can do, for the people that are concentrating on just the headliner, go shoot those acts that are opening up, because it trains your eye to prepare yourself for the headliner. And the more you do it,
Lisa D233 asked, what's the best piece of advice, which you gave to Parker apparently, for a young photographer on their first tour?
First tour, okay. Number one, there'll be a funny one. Number one is have enough batteries and make sure they're always charged.
Because they're going to leave your charger at the venue.
It's a simple thing, but I've seen it happen mid-show where somebody's batteries die and they have a panic look in their face, and I'm just like, you should have a second one or that's a tough one. charge your batteries. Always charge your batteries. To go more like in depth, I would say have enough, especially like depending on the tour. All these tours tend to be long. Have enough. Prepare yourself to have enough memory space, backup drives, hard drives. For whatever reason, always back up all your photos. Always back up all your files. I do a thing where whenever I send photos to my main drive that I edit from, I'm doing a mirror backup immediately.
Yeah, two
just
drives.
Because I don't trust it. Technology, as great as it may be, it's faulty, and I'd rather be secure. I'd rather be safe than sorry.
You don't want to have that first mistake of losing your photos. It's heart wrenching.
Yeah.
The other thing I always tell people is carry spare earplugs, because the number of people I know, and I keep them in my my think tank belt system. The number of people I know that lose an earplug, and they're like, yeah, really. And they're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? It's like, here, I have spares. They've never been used. They're clean. They're
That's
new.
a good one. I never thought about that one. Because I usually just have I wear the custom pair. And I never
same
thought
with me.
to have like
custom molded
extra. That's actually
all right, guys, chill out.
A really good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, where I get my extra earplugs is the Guitar Tech. He always has them. I know where they are in his little Guitar Tech thing, and I go and I just take them. Johnny lets me have them. I'm like, this is great, man. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
I'll say this. Regardless of how nervous you might be that this is your first tour, remember that half the battle, it's already won because you're there.
Yeah.
Whatever you did got you there. Have fun. I think a lot of the first tour moments, it tends to be so nerve-wracking that you don't tend to enjoy that moment. I've been there, and I wish I would have enjoyed certain tours more than I did.
Yeah.
And I make it a point now that, I take it in, enjoy that all the hard work that you've done got you to where you're at now. And, you have the right to enjoy that moment.
And that kind of goes into Connor's question, is he was saying, I think in order to enjoy those things, it's probably important to maintain your health. And I think he mentioned that he saw maybe you were taking strides towards doing stuff for physical and or mental health. What are your thought processes on how to prepare yourself both mentally and physically for tour? And how does that play into making your day easier, or how does it benefit you?
For one of the things I do not, and which goes back into that advice that I gave Parker, there was like, get up early, get situated early, be in the venue before the artist gets there, is use that time that the artists are sleeping for your own personal time, which means whether you need to edit photos, whether you need that quiet time away from everybody to just
work out,
concentrate, whatever it is. And, if you need to like go for a little run, use that. If you need to go work out, use that, use that time to help you. Like for me, I'll see my personal experiences in 2018, I was very heavy and I could feel myself very sluggish at work, running through these arenas and these festivals. And I was exhausted and tired all the time. I had terrible eating habits. Now, I'm not saying you have to do exactly what I did, because what I did worked for me. It may not work for you, but, you have to watch out for yourself. You have to take those steps that are going to help you. For me, I needed to start eating better. I needed to start eating less. I needed to not eat past, those 3 a.m. burgers.
Yeah, or pizza. There's pizza on the bus, man. It's 2 a.m. We're eating, yeah.
It's small things that worked for me. Yeah. Like in 2019, I lost 60 pounds.
Congrats, dude. That's awesome.
Congrats.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
And, it made me feel better. It made it helped me manage so many different things that were happening. I took on a lot more responsibilities in 2019 as part of our team, and what we do, with our videographers and all the photographers that we have, that it kind of helped my mind be able to manage everything, aside from, everything else that's going on in regards to the tour. So that's what worked for me, like take that time that you have early on for yourself. That's why it's useful. That's why it's there for you to because once the artist it's in the venue, it's work time, I'm on their time, I'm on their clock. It's no longer my time. So I can't just be free will doing whatever I want because I'm doing my job. I'm there for a reason. So take that time early on and use it for yourself,
And just
go ahead, Adam.
I was gonna say, and just to add to that, I really vibe with the health, both mentally and physically. because I believe, and maybe you can chime in here, is that when you're on tour with somebody, like, people are not there to take care of you. You really have to pull your own weight, literally, and the healthier you are, the stronger you are, and the more able you to move around, everything gets easier. Every part of your job gets easier. The photography, the actual act of doing the photography, should be the easiest part of your job. That should be like, that shouldn't be the hardest part of your day. Everything, like, you want, and if it, maybe I'm phrasing that wrong. What I'm saying is you need to set yourself up for success. It sounds like you did that. You need to make sure you have all your shit together, because nobody else is going to be like, hey man, you should be eating less or working out or meditating or, you know, whatever you need to do, or like you said, taking 5 minutes. There's nobody, not everybody's going to have not everybody's going to be Parker and then have you on tour with them. You don't have that situation usually, so it's really important.
And I was there. There. You know, I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't, you know, doing the right things. I had to tell myself, like, hey, like, this no longer is working. You need to change that. And I had to go in and say, like, hey, like, all right, what do I need to change? Eating, exercising, taking that time for myself. Like, you know, especially when you're, you know, in close quarters all the time in a tour bus in an arena. It's not, you know, even if it's in a ginormous arena, the spaces are still small when it comes to like who you're around people all the time. You're not by yourself. You can never take time to just for you. So if you have it and you know that between a specific amount of time, you can have your own personal time, take advantage of that.
Well, you know, time-wise, we're running out of time, but there was one question I did want to ask that Christina put in here.
Oh, Steve, real fast.
Yeah.
Is it the bands choose male photographers over females?
Yep.
I was going to say, like, I don't know if... I almost want to reserve that question for when we have a band. Like, I don't know if I want to chime in on that.
Okay.
Personally. Danilo, unless you have a really strong opinion on it, like, I think that's...
What's the question?
The question is, and she says it's kind of a tough question, but do you think bands choose male photographers over female photographers for touring? And, of course, again, only the bands or their management or their camp could really honestly answer this. But in your perception, what do you think?
My perception is I would agree. I'm not sure in what, like, you know, what the terms are, or, you know, like I said, like, you have to ask the band as to why that reason is. And I'll say this, it's not the norm. You know, there are female photographers who are touring with male bands. Yes, right. You have one.
We had a few.
Miranda.
We had I think I had a group of 5 on at one point.
I'd say this, like, I know that's, I mean, like she said, it's a tough question to really answer, like, because I won't have the specific answer for it, because I don't know what the mindset is. What I would say is, like, don't think of it I mean, I guess it would be hard to say don't think of it, but, like, for me is, like, you know, if you concentrate on building the relationship, at the end of the day, it won't matter whether you're male or female. You know, the band will see that, you know, you've built that relationship with them. I've seen a lot of female photographers do the same thing that I did as far as building that relationship with that specific artist. You know, late last year, I made a post because I kept seeing through Instagram, like, a lot of these, like, female photographers that I follow kept popping up a lot on my feed during a specific period. I don't know why it was. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make a post. And I just said, I was like, hey, like, if you really want to get inspired, go follow. I mean, I can only tag 10 people in one Instagram story, but I named 10 female photographers that I look at their photos and I'm like, I get inspired by that. And I think, you know, while it may be a tough question, it may be a thing that also us male photographers need to do a better job of promoting the female photographers and not just the male photographers. You know, I know that in the beginning, I didn't know that many female photographers, and the more time goes, the more I'm seeing. And I think that even if right now it's a thing that's not happening as much as it should, I think times are changing, and you will start seeing more female photographers, you know, touring with more male bands.
So go look up Christy Goodwin. Go look up Britt Bowman, who Britt shoots for Volbeat. There's a lot of great female photographers out there.
Yes.
And I just want to chime in that, like, I think it would be a mistake to say that people aren't getting hired that are females because they're seen as fangirls. Honestly, a lot of the people who are in these positions, I don't think that's valid. I think a lot of people look at people for their work and for who they are as a person, and they hire them based off that. There might be a minority case where it's because of their gender, they can't take them out, but I don't think that's the majority, and I wouldn't worry about it or pay any attention to it. Just do good work.
Yeah.
Most of these people, they don't care what gender you are. They just want somebody who works hard and is somebody they can hang out with. That's all that matters. So don't feel like you're at a disadvantage if you're female, because you're not. You are.
And at the end of the day,
appreciate everything you do.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like if you delivered on your word, that what you were brought in to do, that's gonna speak much louder.
All that matters.
Than you being a female photographer or not.
And Miranda,
and if you didn't sleep past Parker's time.
Yeah, and when Miranda was on here, she did make a point that sometimes when you're traveling with an artist and living with them, it does come down to maybe the artist is married and they don't feel comfortable having a girl on the bus with their significant other. So that is a thing but that is such a small scenario that I wouldn't bum out and be like, I'm a female, I can't tour. Right. Don't worry about that. Just do good work. Keep doing it. That's all that matters. Everybody's here to help out. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good question. Sorry, I didn't want to speak for the bands too much, but I think you guys answered that really well, and I appreciate that. That was great. What am I saying? Yeah, I think that's most of what we have lined up. I don't see many questions in here, but if you guys have more questions for Danilo, he's very interactive online. He's got a great outlook on a lot of things. I agree with him on a lot of his outlook and his mindset. So feel free to tweet him. If they want to hit you up, probably the best way is Twitter, Instagram. What do you say?
Slide in my DMs. My
there
DMs are always open.
There we go.
They're always open. I always will answer questions that are in regards to especially photography and like trying to get ahead and like I say, like questions that will help you in the long run. I will always answer them. Give me some time. Sometimes they get buried with the fans of these bands that I work with that DM me as well, but I will get to them.
He's there, dude. I saw your reply to everything. Well, thank you so much for your time. Again, this is Danilo Lewis. He is a photographer, music photographer. Check him out. Connor just put the links or Captain Lasagna in our Twitch chat. Thank you, Steve. Hey, amazing co-host.
Always good. I'm just glad to be back after 2 weeks off. It's good to see you, Adam.
Yeah, dude,
Danilo,
I missed everybody.
Thank you so much, man.
No, thank you guys for having me. It's an honor. I've been a fan of this series for a while, like the raw editing that you started doing. I'm glad I hit you up because I was like, I want to participate in this. I see like the community you guys are building, and that to me is the number one thing. I think we should build a much better, bigger community.
Well, thank you for helping. Exactly. It's hard, man. It's hard. Like we're like, I don't know about you, but I feel like a lot of the stuff online, overwhelmingly, that gets attention isn't positive. And I'm like, what? Like,
I agree.
We don't like. We have a Discord and stuff, and like, it's just all positive, and I like that vibe. And that's why I want to check out that podcast you're talking about, because that's my vibe. Is like all learning. We're okay with people making mistakes, being
wrong. What's the podcast again?
Go for it.
Black with No Cream.
There we go.
Okay.
I'll check it out.
I'll connect you with Ben so you guys can chat it up.
Dude, I would love to just understand his community building. Please do. I would thoroughly enjoy that.
Podcasting, it's a lifestyle.
Yes. If you get a chance, Danilo, by the way, or maybe Steve can have you on, the behind the shot we do on this show is actually inspired by Steve's podcast he has called Behind the Shot, which is an amazing. I think he does it weekly or bi-weekly. What are you on right now, Steve?
I do it every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, and it's available in podcast apps in video or audio. Or on YouTube.
And yeah, that's why his voice, he's a radio guy. I don't know if you can tell by his voice, but it's just...
Now batting,
just
Danilo Lewis.
Get out of here, dude. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Danilo Lewis.
The only person who listens back to their own audio and is like, I sound great. All right, well, cool. Thank you guys so much. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Let me know, 4 o'clock. Are you doing it anytime soon? I know we're quarantined still, but anytime you're doing coffee.
We're going to be texting you. Don't worry. Like,
all right.
Every day.
I think I got banned from Aubrey's bingo because I forgot to show up twice, and I think I got my exes. But I'm trying
the bingos are on hold. We're thinking of doing a bingo in the park.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I got to get out of my house. Let's go.
Yes.
All right,
they have squirrels in the park.
Oh my god!
Yes.
Squirrel. Squirrel. All right, guys. Have a good one. Peace.
All right. See you guys.
Later.
Thank you.
Later, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.